Chapter 61. Urgent Report. Last night, a noble, one of the more arrogant ones, returned from the auction only to find all his guards slaughtered and his prized slave missing. The gruesome sight shook the city's elite, and now, accusations fly like arrows in a battlefield. Inside a grand estate, several nobles gather in a dimly lit chamber. The atmosphere is thick with anger and suspicion. "This is an insult," one noble growls, slamming his fist onto the table. His face is red with fury. To think that someone would dare attack a noble's entourage. An older noble leans back in his chair, his expression unreadable. It's not just an attack. It was a message. Someone is telling us that our power means nothing, he says, voice calm but cold. A third noble, younger and more impulsive, sneers. Who else but the royal family would dare challenge us so openly? The guards were slaughtered without resistance. No common criminal could pull this off. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the room. But why would the royal family do such a thing? Another noble interjects, skepticism evident in his tone. They have no reason to provoke us like this. If they wanted to challenge us, they do so openly, not through back-alley assassinations. Reason or not, the fact remains. The older noble says, folding his hands together. The king has been silent for too long, and we nobles are gaining power, while the royal family is declining. And now, the balance of power is shifting. Silence follows his words. The implications are clear. Outside the estate, the city guards move restlessly, their orders unclear. The common folk whisper among themselves, some fearful, others curious. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some say it was the work of an unknown assassin. Others claim that the missing slave was no ordinary purchase but someone of great importance. And beneath the surface, hidden in the cracks of Eldoria's grandeur, another force watches from the shadows, waiting, planning. For a while, Alex does nothing, simply sitting in his chamber, allowing the quiet to settle around him. No battles to fight, no urgent matters to handle, just peace. But after a couple of hours, the stillness starts to feel unnatural. His mind, always sharp and restless, urges him to move. He could teleport directly to his workplace with a thought, but instead he stands stretching slightly before stepping out of his chamber. His boots echo against the polished black stone floors as he walks through the palace, taking in its beauty. He has lived here long enough to be familiar with every corridor, every towering archway. Yet even now, the sight still holds a certain awe. Tall obsidian pillars line the halls, glowing faintly with golden runes that pulse like a heartbeat. Large windows of enchanted glass stretch high, revealing breathtaking views of Noctaris below. The floating platforms drifting in the distance, the cascading waterfalls that shimmer with ethereal energy. His city is alive, thriving. Several maids and attendants bow as he passes, their expressions respectful yet subtly curious. It's rare for their king to take a leisurely stroll rather than moving with his usual sharp purpose. Drea, his personal maid, appears from a side hall, her hair glinting under the soft glow of the palace lights. She studies him for a moment before falling into step beside him. "You're walking today, Your Majesty?" she asks, her tone neutral but carrying the faintest hint of amusement. Alex smirks. "What, do you think I've grown lazy?" "Not at all," Drea replies smoothly. "But you rarely take time to admire your own kingdom. It's an unusual sight." He lets his gaze drift across the palace again, the sheer scale of it sinking in. "Maybe I should do it more often." Gives a slight nod, but her sharp eyes never miss a detail. "Did something happen?" Alex chuckles. "Do I need a reason to walk?" "You?" "Yes." He huffs a quiet laugh but doesn't deny it. Instead, he stops near a balcony, looking out over Noctaris as the evening lights shimmer across the city. Drea stands beside him in silence, her gaze also drifting over the breathtaking view of Noctaris. The city is alive with activity, its streets glowing with soft luminescence, the floating platforms moving seamlessly between towering spires. After a moment, she speaks. Also, Your Majesty, while you were away, there's an urgent report from the shadows. Alex's smirk fades slightly. Then I'll go and read it. Without another word, he turns away from the balcony and strides down the hall. His movements are unhurried, but there's a weight behind them now. Drea follows a few steps behind. Soon they arrive at his workspace. The chamber is dimly lit, the air carrying the faint scent of parchment and ink. His desk, large and made of dark obsidian, holds only a few neatly arranged items. Among them, a sealed document marked with the insignia of the shadows, his elite intelligence network. Alex settles into his chair, breaking the seal with a flick of his fingers. He unfolds the parchment and begins reading. The words are concise, but the weight of their meaning sinks deep. The Ralphian kingdom is now in turmoil. The noble faction is preparing for rebellion. Alex's expression remains unreadable, but his fingers tighten slightly on the parchment. He continues reading. The nobles are confident because they have backing. The Valgros kingdom is supporting them from the shadows. A slow exhale leaves Alex's lips. Valgros, one that has long sought to expand its influence. If they're involved, this rebellion isn't just some noble squabble. It's a calculated move to destabilize Ralphian and potentially absorb it into their growing empire. After some thought, Alex decides to call it a day. Tomorrow will be a long one. He stands, stretching briefly before heading toward his quarters. As he moves through the grand halls of his palace, his mind lingers on the unfolding events. War is brewing, and soon he will have to decide how to play his hand. For now, though, he lets the tension ease from his shoulders. There's no use in overthinking things tonight. Chapter 62. Preparing to Attack, Part 1. The next day, Alex wastes no time. He teleports directly to Mizorn City, appearing within Soren's workspace. The moment he materializes, Soren's face brightens. "Your Majesty, you're here!" she exclaims, stepping forward. Alex nods, but his attention is momentarily caught by something else. Soren's attire. Today, she's dressed in something far more fitted tight, sleek fabric that accentuates her figure, revealing just how well-toned she is. And, notably, her ample chest is far more noticeable now than when hidden beneath layers of cloth. For a brief moment, Alex simply observes, taking in the unexpected change. Soren, realizing where his gaze lingers, feels heat rise to her cheeks. Why is he looking at me like that? Her thoughts spiral. Does he like what he sees? No, what am I even thinking? The embarrassment only deepens as she overthinks the situation, her face turning a shade redder. She fidgets slightly before clearing her throat, forcing herself to focus. Did you need something, Your Majesty?" Alex, smirking slightly at her reaction, leans back against the nearby table. "I'm here to discuss our next move," he states, his voice calm but firm. "But first, are the 4 towns in the forest fully under our control now?" Soren exhales, pushing aside her flustered thoughts. "Yes," she nods. "Some tried to resist, but we handled it. The towns are now under our rule." "Good," Alex says, his golden eyes sharpen. "Right now, the Ralphian kingdom is in turmoil, and this is the perfect time to move." Soren folds her arms, regaining her usual composed demeanor. "Agreed. With their nobles divided and their forces stretched thin, they won't have the capacity to interfere with our expansion." "How many monsters have joined as soldiers?" Alex asks. Soren hesitates only a moment before answering. "Out of the 30,000 residents of the city right now, 5,000 have joined." Alex clicks his tongue. That's quite small, considering they get Tier 1 skills or spells just by enlisting. "What happened?" Soren sighs, crossing her arms. "Most of these monsters became citizens because of the dungeon, not because they wanted to fight. And since we're openly telling them that we plan to go against the 3 kingdoms in the future." She gives him a pointed look. "Many of them don't want to risk their lives for something they think is insane." Alex scoffs. So in their minds, the 3 kingdoms aren't like the monsters in the forest. They're an impossible enemy to defeat. He leans back slightly, his expression unreadable. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Once we prove that we have a chance, they'll come running to join us on their own. Soren remains silent for a moment, her fingers tightening slightly against her arms. Her logical side tells her that Alex is serious, that he truly intends to take on the Three Kingdoms. And yet, a part of her is skeptical. She has infiltrated their cities before, back when she was still looking for her sister. Even then, she never dared to enter their capitals. Not even the weakest of the three Ralthian. The sheer power concentrated within those cities, their elite forces, their layers of security, made it a risk not worth taking. And now, Alex is saying that not only will they challenge the Three Kingdoms, but they'll fight them head-on. Your Majesty, she starts carefully, you really intend to fight them all? Alex meets her gaze without hesitation. Of course. His voice is steady, unwavering. Not just fight, win. Seeing the doubt flicker in Soren's eyes, Alex tilts his head slightly. Soren, you've never been to Noctara City, have you? Soren blinks at the sudden question, then shakes her head.
No.
But you did tell me you were going to make your kingdom called Erevaris become known in the world. And your capital is Noctara City. Her amber eyes narrow slightly. Alex chuckles, his smirk widening. So, those four didn't even tell you about my city? Soren frowns. Nosara, Thurn, Veltha, and Groth are almost never here in Mizorn. And even when they are, they're always impatient. Like they want to get things over with as fast as possible. Alex smirks. That's right. You're the only one out of the five of you who's actually working hard. His tone holds a teasing edge, but there's a hint of genuine appreciation in his gaze. I'll make sure those four start visiting you more often. They owe you that much. Soren waves a hand dismissively. There's no need. I can handle things here just fine. Alex crosses his arms. Still, I should give you a reward. His golden eyes gleam. How about a tier 4 skill? Or perhaps some high-quality armor? Soren smiles softly, shaking her head. I'm fine, Your Majesty. You already rescued my little sister and gave us a place where we don't have to hide our real identities. That's more than enough. Alex watches her for a moment, then scoffs lightly. You say that, but I'll still give you something. With a flick of his wrist, a sleek black armor set materializes in front of her. It's fitted for an assassin, light, flexible, yet reinforced in all the right places. The dark fabric absorbs light, blending seamlessly into the shadows, and the enchanted plates are designed to be both durable and silent. Soren's eyes widen slightly as she takes in the craftsmanship. You'll need it, Alex says simply, especially for what's coming next. She sighs but doesn't argue. Instead, she carefully picks up the armor, feeling the weight of it in her hands. Then, I'll make sure to use it well. A few days later, the situation in Ralthian Kingdom continues to spiral out of control. The royal family is overwhelmed, their internal conflicts keeping them too occupied to even consider reclaiming Mizorn City. Nearly a month has passed, and yet they have done nothing about the monsters occupying their territory. Seeing this opportunity, Alex wastes no time. Under his command, Soren, Nosara, Thurn, Veltha, and Groth lead an assault on a nearby human city. With Mizorn secured, it's time to expand their influence further. Chapter 63, Preparing to Attack, Part 1. What makes this attack different from before is the strength of three of its leaders. Nosara, Thurn, and Veltha have finally broken through to Tier 3. Each of them now stands at level 300 or higher, and with that breakthrough, they've awakened new inherited abilities unique to their bloodlines. Unlike humans who need to train or acquire skills manually, although monsters can also learn and study skill books and spells. However, some monsters naturally unlock abilities upon reaching higher tiers. This is why the trio is more eager than ever to fight. They want to test their newfound power. The army moves steadily through the dense forest, the ground trembling slightly under the weight of monstrous warriors. The scent of blood and steel lingers in the air, anticipation thick as they draw closer to the human city. Among them, Nasara flexes her fingers, feeling the hardened texture of her skin. No, not skin anymore. Her Arachne body, which had always been durable, has now evolved further. The ore she consumed refined her very being, embedding her exoskeleton with minerals. Now, streaks of dark metal run along her limbs, and clusters of various ores protrude from her shoulders and arms like natural armor. She clenches her fist experimentally. It's harder, denser, and yet, I don't feel heavier. Thurn walks beside her, his eyes scanning their surroundings. Unlike Nasara, his evolution took a different path. He remained loyal to their tribe's expertise, poison. His body is slimmer than Nasara's, his exoskeleton a deep obsidian with subtle purple veins running along his arms and legs. The venom within him has become more potent, his fangs sharper, his stingers secreting a toxin powerful enough to melt through steel. Thurn glances at Nasara. You look ridiculous. His voice is dry, unimpressed. Nasara smirks, flexing her metallic fingers. And you look weak. Thurn clicks his tongue. Humph. You think durability alone makes you superior. He extends a hand, letting a drop of his venom fall onto a nearby rock. The stone sizzles, dissolving into a smoking puddle. Let's see if your ores can withstand this. Nasara chuckles. You'll have to try harder than that. Veltha, the serpentine beastkin, watches the exchange with mild amusement. Her long tail coils and uncoils as she moves, her body more flexible and streamlined than before. While the Arachne siblings focused on hardening their bodies, Veltha's evolution honed her speed and precision. She flicks out her forked tongue, sensing the change in the air. You're both wasting time, she says smoothly. No matter how strong you've become, if you can't land a hit, then you're useless. Nasara rolls her eyes. And here comes the speech about speed. Veltha smirks. You wouldn't need that or armor if you could dodge properly. Thurn exhales, annoyed. If we get into another argument, Soren will make us walk back to Mizorn. That shuts them up. Groth, who has been silent the entire march, finally speaks. Enough. The city is close, he said, and the dense mana surrounding his staff only makes his presence more intimidating. Focus. At his words, the air shifts. The playful tension between Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha fades, replaced by a cold, predatory anticipation. Ahead of them, beyond the last stretch of trees, lies their target, a walled human city, its guards completely unaware of the approaching storm. Nasara grins, her metallic exoskeleton gleaming in the dim light. Let's see what these humans are made of. Veltha's golden eyes narrow. If they're smart, they'll surrender. Thurn bares his fangs. If they're not, they'll die. Soren steps forward, drawing her twin daggers.
No unnecessary destruction.
We take the city, not raze it. Her sharp gaze sweeps over them. Understood. A chorus of low growls and murmured affirmations fills the air. Soren steps up onto a fallen tree trunk, elevating herself above the gathered monster soldiers. Her amber eyes scan the army, 8,000 strong. Their gazes, filled with hunger, uncertainty, and excitement, lock onto her. Listen well, she calls out, her voice carrying through the silent forest. When the battle starts, you will kill the enemy soldiers. But if civilians surrender, you do not kill them. Some of the newer recruits shift uncomfortably, murmuring among themselves. A few had joined solely for the thrill of slaughtering humans. Soren's eyes narrow, catching the hesitation. We are not the monsters you used to be, she continues, her tone sharp. You are now soldiers of the Erevaris kingdom. That statement alone stuns them into silence. A kingdom? Many of them had joined this force for the Tier 1 skills they received upon enlistment. Others simply wanted to take revenge on humans. But none of them had known they were fighting under a kingdom, one that none of them had ever heard of before. Soren lets the weight of her words settle before speaking again. I know most of you have questions. I know you don't even know who our king is. But after this battle, you will be invited to his capital. And you will be rewarded personally by his majesty. The murmuring grows louder. A kingdom strong enough to conquer Mizorn? Strong enough to command them, the most feared monsters of the forest? It's not just Sorin. The other four commanders standing with her, Nasara, Thurn, Veltha, and Groth, aren't just ordinary warriors. They were once known as the Lords of the Forest, each ruling over their own domains. And now they all follow a single ruler. Nasara steps forward, crossing her arms. "You've all heard of us before," she says, her voice calm but commanding. "You know our strength. Ask yourselves, what kind of being could make us follow him?" Silence. Even the most bloodthirsty monsters in the army hesitate at that thought. Thurn smirks, fangs glinting. "If you think Erevaris is just some backwater kingdom, you're in for a surprise." Veltha flicks out her tongue, her golden eyes gleaming. "After today, you'll understand why we serve." Groth remains silent, but his old body still feels powerful, and his staff glows red like lava. Sorin steps down from the tree trunk, her gaze sweeping over the gathered soldiers. "Fight well," she says simply. "Survive. And after this battle, you will see Erevaris for yourselves." The uncertainty in the air shifts. It doesn't disappear completely, but now there is something else. Anticipation. Then, without another word, the army moves forward. Chapter 64. Dalan City. The dimly lit chamber carries the scent of aged parchment and burning incense. City Lord Umbro sits at the head of a long wooden table, his fingers drumming impatiently against the polished surface. Across from him, Commander Beer stands with a rigid posture, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "Beer," Umbro mutters, his voice low but edged with irritation. "Has His Majesty still done nothing about Mizorn?" Beer exhales, shaking his head. "No, my lord. The capital is in chaos. The nobles are fighting the royal family, trying to weaken the royal family's grip. They aren't openly rebelling yet, but their schemes are keeping the king occupied." Umbro scoffs, leaning back in his chair. "Those useless nobles. What do they think they'll gain by destabilizing the kingdom?" His grip tightens on the armrest. "Are they blind to the fact that the other two kingdoms will strike the moment we're weak?" Beer's expression remains grim. "I doubt they care. Each faction only sees their own benefit. The moment one noble gains an advantage, the others pull them back down like crabs in a bucket." Umbro lets out a frustrated sigh, rubbing his temple. "And here we are, waiting for orders from a king who has his hands full with a pack of vultures." He leans forward, his eyes narrowing. Umbro stays silent for a moment, his fingers tapping against the table once more. "And what of the enemy?" Beer's jaw clenches. "Unknown. Whoever took Mizorn, they haven't made another move yet. But if they come for Dalan..." He meets Umbro's gaze. "We're not prepared." A heavy silence falls over the room. A deep, resonating horn cuts through the quiet of the city. The sound is unmistakable, a warning of an approaching army. The walls of Dalan tremble, and the distant shouts of soldiers rushing to their posts echo through the streets. The door bursts open as a young soldier, breathless and wide-eyed, stumbles inside. "My lord," he pants, his face pale with urgency. "A massive army of monsters has appeared outside the city." And he swallows hard. "Their leader is requesting an audience with you." Umbro's eyes narrow. "Their leader." The gates of Dalan Creek open, and Umbro steps onto the stone-paved road leading beyond the walls. Soldiers line the ramparts above, bows drawn, ballistae loaded, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The moment he lays eyes on the enemy, his breath catches. The army before him is unlike anything he has ever seen. Thousands of monstrous warriors stand in disciplined formations, their weapons glinting under the midday sun. And at the front of them, mounted atop a massive, scaled beast, sits a figure clad in dark, high-quality armor. A monster in armor? Umbro's grip tightens on his reins as he studies her. She is beautiful, inhumanly so. Long dark hair flows behind her, and her eyes gleam with an intelligence that monsters should not possess. This is no mindless beast. The woman's piercing gaze locks onto him, Then she speaks. Are you the city lord? Her voice is calm, yet carries the weight of command. Umbro straightens. I am Lord Umbro of Dalan. And you are? I am Sorin, she replies, commander of His Majesty's army. His Majesty? Umbro frowns. Who is this Majesty you serve? Sorin doesn't answer his question. Instead, she tilts her head slightly. We are here to offer you a choice. Umbro scoffs. A choice? What could monsters possibly offer me? Sorin's expression remains unreadable. Surrender Dalan and swear loyalty to the Erevaris kingdom. She gestures toward the city behind him. Your people will live, but they will be of lower status than the monsters. You will serve under us, or you will perish. A wave of murmurs spreads through the gathered soldiers behind Umbro. Fury and disbelief flicker across their faces. Umbro feels the blood rise to his head. His voice turns sharp. You dare to look down on humans? On the kingdom of Ralthian. He grits his teeth. Do you truly think the kingdom will allow monsters to take human cities? The king will send an army to wipe you out. You and all the filth that follows you. Sorin meets his rage with cold indifference. Then he should have protected Mizorn. Silence. Umbro's hands tighten into fists. She's right. Mizorn was abandoned. And if Dalan falls, no one is coming to save them. But surrendering to monsters? Never. His soldiers share his fury. The very idea of kneeling to beasts disgusts them. A soldier beside him shouts, We would rather die than serve monsters. Another echoes, Dalan will never surrender. Umbro said, If you think you can take this city, try. Sorin exhales, almost as if she expected this answer. Very well, she says softly. Sorin returns to the monsters, while Umbro heads back to the city. Sorin then raises a hand and drops it in a swift motion. Attack! The roar of the monster army shakes the air as they surge forward. Within seconds, arrows rain down from Dalan's walls, streaking toward the advancing force. Shields are raised, some arrows bouncing harmlessly off thick monster hides, while others find flesh. The battlefield erupts into chaos. At the front, Groth steps forward. The old salamander stands tall despite his hunched frame, his molten eyes gleaming with amusement as he watches the humans scramble. His crimson staff pulses with energy, the fire within him begging to be unleashed. Let's start with something small, he muses. Raising his staff, he chants, and a fiery glyph flares to life beneath his feet. Blazing Smite. A torrent of flames shoots from the staff, crashing into the city gate. The wood blackens, cracks forming along its surface, but it does not break. A faint golden shimmer pulses around it. An enchantment. Groth said, Not bad, but let's see how you handle this. His staff glows brighter as he channels his mana. The air around him distorts from the heat, and the ground beneath his feet scorches. His deep, gravelly voice carries through the battlefield as he chants. Infernal Surge. Chapter 65. The Fall of Dalan City, Part 1. A deafening roar erupts as a concentrated wave of molten fire surges forward in a straight line, consuming everything in its path. The intense heat warps the air, turning the ground into molten slag as it races toward the gates. The moment it strikes, the enchantment on the gate flares brilliantly, struggling to hold. Runes etched into the wood glow fiercely, fighting against the infernal flames. But Groth's attack is not a simple blaze, it is concentrated destruction. Cracks snake across the barrier as the magic struggles against the relentless fire. Then, a resounding crack. The enchantment shatters, and the full force of the infernal wave crashes into the weakened wood. The gate explodes inward, splintering into a hail of burning debris. Soldiers stationed near it scream as they are engulfed in flames, their armor melting into their flesh before they can even react. Groth exhales slowly, watching the flames consume the entrance. Now that, he mutters, is how you break a door. Behind him, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha step forward, eyes gleaming. Nasara grins, flexing her metallic fingers. Looks like we're going in. Thurn licks his fangs, his venom dripping onto the scorched ground. Time to hunt. Veltha flicks her tail. Let's see if they can even put up a fight. From above the walls, the human soldiers, stunned by the sudden breach, struggle to form a defensive line. Umbro watches in horror as the once impenetrable gate collapses in a wave of molten destruction. The city's greatest defense, shattered in seconds. The soldiers around him, who had been standing tall with unwavering confidence, now stare in shock and fear. How the hell do these monsters have a Tier 3 mage? His mind races. He had heard the rumors of the 5 monster lords of the forest, but seeing their power firsthand is something else entirely. They weren't just strong, they were terrifying. Before he can issue new orders, the first wave of monsters surges through the burning remains of the gate. Hold the line, Beer roars, drawing his sword. Stop them before they enter the city. But it's already too late. Nasara is the first to enter the breach, her massive arachne form skittering over the burning rubble with unnatural speed. The moment she crosses into the city, she moves like a predator, her metal-infused limbs cutting through the smoke like blades. A squad of human spearmen rushes toward her, their formation tight, their expressions hardened with resolve. "Push her back!" their captain shouts. "Don't let the monsters through." The human soldiers brace themselves, their spears angled forward in a deadly hedge. Their movements are disciplined, their formation practiced. They know that if they falter, the monsters will pour through and the city will fall. Nasara doesn't even slow down. The first spear thrusts toward her chest, its tip glowing with enchantment. A powerful strike. Against any normal opponent it would be lethal. But Nasara isn't normal. She doesn't dodge. She doesn't even attempt to block. The spearhead slams into her metallic exoskeleton with a sharp clang, and stops dead. The soldier who thrusts it blinks in horror. His weapon doesn't even scratch her. Then Nasara moves. With a flick of her wrist, her clawed hand swipes across the soldier's chest. The force alone sends him flying backward, armor crumpling inward like tin foil. He slams into another soldier behind him, sending both to the ground in a heap of tangled limbs. The formation breaks. The spearmen hesitate, fear creeping into their disciplined ranks. A mistake. Nasara lunges, her lower spider legs slamming into the ground with thunderous force. She barrels forward, her claws cutting through spears like twigs. Soldiers try to hold her back, but they might as well be trying to stop a charging war beast. One soldier swings a sword at her neck. She lets him. The blade meets her exoskeleton and snaps in half. The soldier stares at his broken weapon, disbelieving. Nasara's clawed hand wraps around his throat. With a casual flex of her fingers, she crushes his windpipe and tosses him aside. The rest of the spearmen panic. They turn to run. Cowards. Nasara grins, rearing up on her hind legs. "Running already?" she taunts, her voice dripping with amusement. A sudden whoosh cuts through the air. A volley of enchanted arrows streaks toward her from the rooftops. The archers, stationed above, unleash a relentless hail, their projectiles glowing with magic. Nasara barely reacts. The arrows strike her exoskeleton with sharp pings, but they fail to penetrate. Some glance off, ricocheting wildly. Others lodge into the ore-infused plates, unable to dig deeper. She looks up at the archers, unimpressed. "Are you tickling me?" Then she moves. With a burst of speed unnatural for her size, she leaps, straight toward the rooftop. The archers barely have time to react before she lands among them, the roof cracking beneath her weight. Her clawed hands lash out, grabbing the nearest soldier. She hurls him from the rooftop, his scream cut short as he crashes into the stone street below. Chaos erupts on the rooftop. The archers scramble to reposition, their bows useless in close quarters. One brave soldier draws a dagger, lunging at Nasara's neck. She lets him. The blade skids uselessly against her metallic exoskeleton. Nasara sighs. Humans never learn. Her arm swings in a blur, backhanding the archer so hard that his body sails off the rooftop, tumbling lifelessly to the ground below. Back on the streets, Thurn slithers forward, his movement eerily silent. Unlike Nasara, he doesn't charge in, he hunts. His obsidian exoskeleton glistens under the fire-lit sky, the faint purple veins running through it pulsing with venom. The humans barely notice him until it's too late. A group of sword-wielding soldiers rounds a corner, their attention locked on the raging battle ahead. They don't see Thurn perched on the crumbling remains of a building's facade, his many legs clinging to the surface like a predator waiting for the perfect moment. Then he drops. A scream pierces the air as he lands in the center of their formation, his bladed legs slicing through two soldiers instantly. Chapter 66. The Fall of Dalan City, Part 2. Ambush! One of them yells, turning to strike. Thurn hisses, his fangs flashing. His tail whips forward, striking the soldier's arm before he can swing. A thin cut, barely noticeable. The man frowns. That barely. Then his body convulses. His skin blackens, veins bulging as Thurn's venom takes hold. Within seconds, he collapses, foaming at the mouth. Thurn chuckles. Humans really do have weak constitutions. The remaining soldiers hesitate, their fear palpable. Veltha takes advantage. With unnatural speed, the serpentine warrior darts into their ranks. Her flexible body twists between them like flowing water, avoiding their clumsy sword strikes with ease. A soldier swings his greatsword at her head. Veltha ducks, her body bending impossibly low, her eyes flashing with amusement. Too slow. Her tail whips forward, striking the man's legs out from under him. As he falls, she coils around his neck in an instant. The sickening crack of his spine snapping echoes through the streets. The others try to retreat, but Veltha doesn't let them. She slithers forward, her movements blurring with terrifying speed. A dagger flashes in her hand, and blood sprays as she carves through armor and flesh alike. By the time she stops, 5 bodies lie at her feet. Umbro watches the massacre unfold, his heart pounding. These monsters, these lords of the forest, were untouchable. Their power was beyond anything he had ever faced. He grips his sword tightly. Damn it all! Dalan is falling, and no one is coming to save them. Beer grits his teeth, his knuckles white as he grips his sword. The battlefield is drenched in chaos, bodies strewn across the streets, smoke curling into the sky. The monstrous invaders move through his soldiers like an unstoppable tide, their overwhelming power reducing the city's defenders to nothing more than prey. He turns to Umbro, his voice grim. "My lord, flee the city. We will try to stop them." Umbro doesn't argue. He doesn't waste time with empty words about honor or duty. He knows the truth, this city is already lost. His family is waiting for him beyond the walls, having fled the moment the battle began. He clenches his jaw, nodding once. "May the gods watch over you, Beer," he says, before turning on his heel and disappearing into the shadows of the city. Beer exhales slowly, steeling himself. He is the last line of defense, the only warrior in Dalan strong enough to stand against these creatures. He is tier 3 just like them, but he is only 1 and they are 4. And, to make matters worse, they're arguing. Nasara folds her arms, her many legs tapping impatiently against the stone. "I should fight him," she declares. "I've barely used my new skills. Those soldiers didn't even last 5 seconds. Thurn hisses, his fangs glinting. "You're not the only one who wants to test their abilities, Nasara. Besides, I like fighting warriors, not weaklings." Veltha smirks, coiling her long serpentine body as she watches Beer. "You're both too reckless. If anyone should fight him, it's me. I'll make it quick and efficient." Beer tightens his grip on his weapon. "Are you monsters seriously debating who gets to kill me?" Nasara turns to him, grinning. "Yes, we are. We don't get many fights worth our time." Beer exhales sharply. "Enough of this nonsense." He lowers his stance, his aura flaring as he readies himself. "Come at me, all of you. Let's end this." The 3 exchange glances. Thurn chuckles. "Cocky, aren't you?" Veltha's smirk widens. "Bold. I like him." Nasara rolls her shoulders. "Fine. Let's not waste time, then." and then they move. Nasara is the first to attack. She lunges forward, her metallic claws slicing through the air. Beer barely manages to parry, his blade meeting her strike with a resounding clang. The force alone sends him sliding backward, his boots scraping against the bloodied cobblestone. Beer grits his teeth as the impact rattles his arms. She's strong, far stronger than any monster he's ever faced. But he doesn't falter. He channels his mana, activating Titan's Guard, a Tier 2 defensive skill. His muscles tense, his body hardening as a faint golden glow coats his form. Nasara's next strike comes fast, her claws a blur. Beer plants his feet and meets it head-on. The impact sends a shockwave through the street, dust and debris kicking up around them. But this time he doesn't budge. Nasara narrows her eyes. "Oh? You can take a hit." Beer smirks. "I'm not done." With a burst of speed, he counters with Iron Fang Slash, his sword glowing as he swings at her exposed side. Nasara doesn't dodge. Instead, she shifts, letting her ore-infused exoskeleton take the brunt of the attack. Sparks fly as the blade scrapes against her metallic body, failing to cut through. Beer's eyes widen. "Damn it, I didn't even leave a mark." "Nice try." Nasara taunts, her fangs bared. Before he can react, Thurn moves. He strikes from the side, his obsidian-clad legs lashing out in a flurry of sharp jabs. Beer barely raises his blade in time, deflecting the first two strikes, but the third grazes his shoulder. A thin line of blood appears, and he feels a slight burning sensation spread from the wound. "Venom," Beer growls. Thurn chuckles. Beer grits his teeth, forcibly suppressing the pain with sheer will. He can't afford to slow down. With a quick step, he twists, slamming his shield into Thurn's side with all his might. The impact sends Thurn skidding across the street, his armored hide scraping against stone. Not bad. Beer turns, just in time to see Veltha's form flicker. "Damn it!" Where? A sharp pain erupts in his side. Veltha materializes behind him, her dagger sinking shallowly into his armor. Beer reacts instantly, swinging his elbow back. He stumbles, but he doesn't fall. "Impressive," Veltha purrs. "But you're already slowing down." Beer exhales, feeling his body growing heavier. The venom is spreading. If he doesn't act fast, he'll be dead in minutes. He grips his sword tighter. "No choice. I have to use it." Chapter 67. The Fall of Dalan City, Part 3. Mana surges through him as he activates his Tier 3 skill, Indomitable Charge. A golden aura erupts around him, the air itself trembling under the force of his will. His veins burn with renewed strength as his body ignores exhaustion, pain, and even the venom coursing through him. Then he moves. The ground cracks beneath him as he surges forward, his sword gleaming with raw power. He slams into Veltha first, his blade cleaving through the air with enough force to split stone. She barely manages to twist away, but the sheer pressure of his strike sends her flying into a crumbling wall. Nasara moves to intercept, her claws ready, but Beer doesn't stop. His shield slams into her midsection, sending her skidding backward. He follows up with a brutal downward slash, forcing her to block with both arms. The impact sends another shockwave through the battlefield, and for the first time Nasara stumbles. Thurn darts in, aiming for Beer's exposed flank. But Beer anticipates it. He pivots, catching Thurn's strike with his shield before ramming the edge into the serpent's face. Thurn recoils, hissing. Beer breathes heavily, his body burning from exertion. "This is it. My last burst of strength." Nasara wipes a thin trickle of blood from her lips, looking at it with mild amusement. "Well," she says, rolling her shoulders, "that was fun." Thurn chuckles, rubbing his jaw. "Haven't been hit like that in a while." Veltha groans, pulling herself from the rubble. "He's tougher than he looks." Beer grips his sword, his vision blurring. His time is running out. Beer staggers, his breath ragged. His limbs feel like lead, the venom dulling his movements, his strength ebbing away with each second. His vision wavers, but he refuses to fall. Not yet. He tightens his grip on his sword, forcing his body to obey. If I'm going down, I'm taking at least one of them with me. But the three monsters aren't even breathing heavily. They stand before him, unharmed, watching him struggle with the casual amusement of predators toying with their prey. Nasara tilts her head. Still standing? I'll give you credit for that. Beer exhales sharply, shifting his stance. You think this is over? Thurn chuckles.
No.
But you do. Beer growls and lunges forward, pouring the last of his strength into a final, desperate swing at Nasara. His blade sings through the air, but she's faster. She sidesteps effortlessly, her claws darting out in the same motion. A flash of silver, a streak of red. Beer's sword arm is severed at the elbow. Pain erupts through his body, but he doesn't even have time to scream. Veltha's tail coils around his legs and yanks, sending him crashing onto his back. Before he can move, Thurn's foot slams onto his chest, pinning him in place. Beer gasps, blood bubbling at his lips. His vision blurs further, his strength gone. Nasara crouches beside him, watching with mild curiosity. Too bad, she murmurs. If I had fought you alone, it would have been a good match. Beer tries to speak, but nothing comes. The last thing he sees is her smirking face, before darkness takes him. Thurn clicks his tongue. That took longer than I expected. Veltha sighs, wiping a streak of blood from her blade. You two were playing around. Nasara shrugs. Maybe, but at least he made it interesting. She rises, glancing down the ruined street. Smoke still fills the air, and the city of Dalan is nothing but a dying ember. Suspended in the air above the city, Alex and Varkas watch the battle unfold, their figures completely hidden by the veil of invisibility. From this height, Dalan looks like a dying beast. Its streets choked with smoke, its defenders broken, its once proud walls scarred by battle. Alex's gaze lingers on Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha as they stand over Beer's lifeless body. They hadn't even used their Tier 3 skills. It wasn't arrogance, it was restraint. Against a lone opponent, they hadn't even needed to go all out. Varkas chuckles beside him, his arms crossed as he observes the scene. Your Majesty, these rookies have a lot of potential. His golden eyes gleam with rare approval. If they keep this up, they might even surpass me and reach level 600. Alex nods. They're growing fast. I can see it in the way they move, the way they fight. That wasn't just strength, it was control. They could have ended him immediately, but they didn't. They tested themselves, refined their combat instincts. That kind of discipline? It's the mark of true warriors. The last remnants of Dalan soldiers finally drop their weapons. Some fall to their knees, their faces blank with exhaustion and terror. Others stand frozen, their hands raised in surrender, their armor splattered with the blood of fallen comrades. And just like that, the battle is over. Soren, standing atop the rubble of a collapsed building, surveys the battlefield with cold, golden eyes. She takes a deep breath, then raises her voice. Enough! Stop! The bloodthirsty monsters halt mid-motion. Some are still hacking down retreating soldiers, others are tearing into the bodies of the fallen, their hunger for violence not yet sated. But Soren's words cut through the chaos like a blade, and they obey without hesitation. She steps forward, her gaze sweeping over them. Anyone who ignores my orders, her voice drops, filled with quiet menace, dies by my hands. A heavy silence settles. The monsters that moments ago slaughtered without restraint now stand still, awaiting her command. Soren crosses her arms. I saw some of you kill civilians hiding in the ruins. Her eyes narrow, a sharp edge to her voice. I let it slide this time, but if I see it again, your heads will be rolling on the floor. The warning is clear. No one dares to argue. Some shift uncomfortably, others lower their heads in acknowledgement. Satisfied, Soren exhales and turns to the defeated soldiers. You're prisoners now. Don't make me regret sparing you. The battle for Dalan has ended, but Soren makes sure they all know her authority is absolute. She doesn't want to make Alex disappointed. Chapter 68. The Fall of Dalan City, Part 4. With the city secured, Soren wastes no time. She leads her forces toward the city lord's mansion, the last stronghold of authority in Dalan. The grand structure stands at the heart of the ruined city, its once pristine white stone now stained with soot and blood. The gates hang open, abandoned. Whatever resistance was stationed here has already scattered or surrendered. But as Soren steps inside, her sharp eyes scan the dimly lit hall, and immediately, she freezes. Alex is already there. He stands in the center of the grand chamber, his posture relaxed yet commanding. At his side looms a massive lycanthrope, eyes gleaming with predatory sharpness. Soren stops in her tracks, her eyes flickering with momentary surprise before she quickly composes herself. She places a fist over her heart and bows slightly. "Your Majesty, you're here?" Alex turns to her, a faint smirk playing at his lips. "I am," he says, his voice calm yet firm. "And I'm satisfied with your work." Soren straightens, pride flashing in her eyes for a brief moment before she speaks again. "We've secured the city. The remaining forces have surrendered, and order is being established." Alex nods, glancing toward the open doors behind her. "Good. I expected nothing less." His gaze sharpens as he looks at her. "Any issues?" She hesitates for half a second before shaking her head.
No.
"There were a few who stepped out of line, but I handled it." Alex studies her for a moment, then gives a slight nod. "That's what I like to hear." He gestures toward the lycanthrope beside him. "This is General Varkas. He'll assist in securing the city moving forward from now on." Soren immediately shifts her attention to Varkas, her expression turning serious. She places a fist over her heart again and bows respectfully. "General Varkas," she greets him firmly. Though she can't sense any aura from him, she knows exactly what that means. Only those who have surpassed Tier 5, level 500 and beyond, can completely suppress their presence. And she's only just become Tier 4, barely scratching level 400. The sheer gap in strength is almost unimaginable. If Tier 4 has made her feel this powerful, then what kind of force does Tier 5 wield? Varkas, arms still crossed, merely looks at her with a neutral expression. "You're disciplined. Good." His deep voice carries a weight to it, as if he's already assessing her worth. Before Soren can respond, Alex speaks. "Varkas, go and help them settle the city first," he instructs. "Kalik should be arriving any moment now. He'll be the one to govern Dalan." Soren frowns slightly, unfamiliar with the name. Alex glances at her. "Kalik is one of my soldiers," he explains. "He was the first to manage one of our captured towns. We don't have enough manpower right now, but he already has experience. He should be fine. As for me," Alex continues, turning toward a nearby hallway, "I'm going to see how much gold they have left." As Alex walks through the halls of the city lord's mansion, he notices something strange. Gold coins scattered across the floor. They glimmer under the dim torchlight, some piled in corners, others abandoned near overturned furniture. He scoffs. "These guys must have tried to take as much as they could," he mutters, shaking his head. "Looks like they ran out of time." The deeper he goes, the more obvious it becomes. Some chests are left half open, sacks of gold spilled carelessly. Whoever was in charge of the treasury must have been in a mad rush to escape, but either got caught in the chaos or simply didn't have enough hands to carry it all. Finally, he arrives at the treasury. The heavy doors are wide open, a clear sign that the looting was either rushed or unfinished. Inside, the room is a mess. Shelves knocked over, weapons and armor scattered across the floor. There are a few enchanted swords and ornate breastplates, likely valuable to ordinary soldiers. But to Alex, he barely glances at them. Compared to the items in his arsenal, these are nothing but scraps. Even his lowest-grade equipment outclasses these relics. "All are garbage," he mutters, stepping past them. His focus is on the gold. "But all these gold coins are like an energizer to me," he smirks. Stacks of coins, small chests filled to the brim, pouches carelessly left on the tables. Despite the attempted looting, there's still a massive amount left behind. Without hesitation, he raises his palm. A faint hum fills the air. Then, like a vacuum, the gold surges toward him. The coins lift off the ground, streaming through the air in a dazzling cascade. Chests rattle as their contents spill forth, swirling toward his open palm before vanishing into thin air, absorbed directly into his system. In mere moments, the gold coins in the treasury are gone. A notification flashes across his transparent screen. Gold. Plus 1,742,630. Alex's eyes flick to his balance. His total gold skyrockets past 1,700,000. He exhales, satisfied. Not bad. Looking around, only the weapons and armor remain. Alex crosses his arms, unimpressed. Might as well reward these to the soldiers, he mutters. He turns and leaves the treasury, making his way back outside. By the time he arrives, Soren, Kalik, and Varkas are already waiting for him. Kalik, a hobgoblin with sharp features and a disciplined posture, immediately steps forward. His eyes burn with gratitude as he places a fist over his heart. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for thinking so highly of me," he says, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Alex studies him for a moment before nodding. "With your performance in managing that town, I'm confident you can handle this city just as well," he says. "You are no longer just an ordinary soldier of my kingdom." The weight of those words crashes over Kalik. His breathing hitches, his fingers twitch slightly as if resisting the urge to Noto. Just being remembered, just having Alex acknowledge him, fills him with overwhelming joy. Chapter 69. Second Tier 5 Subordinate. His eyes shine with something close to reverence, almost fanatical. Alex sighs internally. All my subordinates are just too extreme in revering me. Shaking his head, he raises a hand. A pouch appears in his palm, brimming with wealth. With a flick of his wrist, it lands in Kalik's grasp. "Here's 200,000 gold coins," Alex says. "Use it to stabilize the city." Kalik clutches the pouch like it's the most precious thing in the world. His voice trembles slightly. "I will not disappoint you, Your Majesty." Before leaving, Alex glances at Soren. "Since I promised them that they could visit me, lead them tomorrow," he says. "The four know where Noctaris City is." Soren places a fist over her heart and bows slightly. "As you wish, Your Majesty." Alex nods in approval before adding, "Also, there's a lot of weapons and armor in the treasury. Use them to reward the soldiers." Soren's eyes flicker with understanding. "I'll make sure they're distributed properly," she responds. Satisfied, Alex exchanges a glance with Varkas. With a faint shimmer, their forms blur and vanish as they activate invisibility. Then, without a sound, they ascend into the sky, disappearing. Inside the resurrection chamber, a faint glow pulses from the ancient runes carved into the resurrection altar. The air hums with power, a dense, almost suffocating energy filling the chamber as Alex stands before the resurrection altar. His gaze locks onto the name displayed on his transparent screen. Valeth the Phantom Stalker, Level 532. Resurrection cost, 105,000 gold. A wraith-like assassin, Valeth was a terror on the battlefield. His Shadow Meld ability allowed him to phase between the physical and ethereal realms, making him nearly impossible to track. He was the perfect killer, silent, precise, merciless. Alex exhales, pressing his hand against the altar. Resurrect. The moment the word leaves his lips, a surge of dark energy explodes from the runes, spiraling upward like a vortex. The chamber trembles slightly as the sheer power of the resurrection process unfolds. Wisps of black mist seep from the altar, coiling in the air before condensing into a humanoid form. Slowly, a figure emerges from the darkness. Valeth. His form is draped in a tattered cloak of shifting shadows, his presence barely tangible, as if reality itself struggles to keep hold of him. His face remains obscured beneath a hood, revealing only faint traces of spectral blue eyes glowing beneath the darkness. For a long moment he remains motionless. Then he takes a slow step forward. "Your Majesty." His voice is barely more than a whisper, yet it carries an eerie weight, like a blade gliding through the night. Valeth drops to one knee, head bowed in absolute submission. Alex watches him with a satisfied nod. "Welcome back." Valeth lifts his head slightly. "I am yours to command," he intones, his voice unwavering. Alex crosses his arms, his gaze steady as he looks down at Valeth. "Good. Right now, the shadows don't have a leader. That's why I revived you." Valeth nods, his glowing eyes narrowing with determination. "You can count on me, Your Majesty." A moment of silence lingers before he finally asks, "May I know how many of the shadows are left?" Alex exhales. "Right now it's just 5, and they're all at the lowest rank." He pauses before adding, "But don't worry. I'll revive more with the gold I have left." Valeth bows his head slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As Alex channels his remaining gold into reviving the fallen shadows, he glances at Valeth. "Tell me what happened. Why are there only 5 left?" Valeth's expression darkens slightly beneath his hood. His voice is calm, but there's a sharp edge to it, like a blade that has seen too much battle. "Your Majesty, when you suddenly lost consciousness and never woke up, Lord Kirin rallied all of the shadows and led an assault on the enemy's capital city." Alex's eyes flicker with recognition. Kirin, one of the 5 lords, the strongest of his subordinates. Valeth continues. "The 2 enemy king was locked in battle with Lord Kael'thar at the time. When we attacked, one had no choice but to abandon the fight and return to defend his capital." Alex scoffs. "Ha! So Kirin forced one back. Smart." Valeth nods. "Yes, but in the end, we were all killed." Alex's expression turns unreadable. "By that bastard?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Valeth confirms. "He was so furious that he used a one-time-use divine item to wipe us all out." Alex pauses, then suddenly laughs. "That's actually great news." Alex smirks. "Do you know how expensive those divine items are? The fact that he had to use one means you all did a damn good job before going down." Valeth's lips twitch slightly. "We took many of his subordinates with us. Enough that he couldn't risk fighting us normally." Alex nods in approval. "Good. That alone makes me feel better." He focused back on the altar. With a deep breath, Alex continues the resurrection process. The chamber glows ominously as dark energy swirls around him, forming into shadowy figures one after another. One by one, the members of the shadows return. Their forms emerge from the abyss, flickering into existence as they kneel before Alex. When the final pulse of magic fades, Alex takes a moment to assess his resurrected assassins. 20 in total. One stands out immediately, a figure clad in dark leathers, exuding a sharp, predatory aura. He's the strongest among them, somewhere in the level 400 range. The rest vary between level 200 and 300. Not bad. Valeth steps forward, his gaze scanning the group before settling on the strongest one. "Cain," he says, voice unreadable. The assassin, Torek, looks up. His eyes gleam under his hood. "Lord Valeth," he acknowledges before turning his attention to Alex. "Your Majesty," he says, bowing low. "It is an honor to serve you once more." Alex watches them in silence for a moment before speaking. "You've all been brought back for a reason," he says, his voice calm but firm. "The shadows have fallen far from what they once were. That changes today." The assassins remain kneeling, their unwavering attention on him. Chapter 70. 5 Huge Floating Island. "I won't lie, the shadow has fallen," Alex continues. "But that will only be temporary. In time, I will restore the shadows to their former glory." A ripple of quiet determination passes through the group. "Valeth has the highest ranking right now," Alex states. So follow his orders as you would mine. Torek nods immediately. Understood. Valeth steps forward, arms crossed. Our first priority is re-establishing our network. We need eyes and ears everywhere. Alex watches as the newly resurrected shadows absorb his words. They may have been brought back to life, but their sharp instincts remain. The air around them brims with silent resolve. Before you go, Alex says, his tone shifting slightly, there's something you all need to understand. The assassins remain kneeling, their gazes locked onto him, waiting. This world is not the one you remember. A flicker of confusion passes through some of them, but no one dares to interrupt. Alex continues. It may look similar. It may feel familiar, but everything has changed. The land, the people, the power structures, nothing is exactly as it was before. His golden eyes sweep over them. So don't assume old alliances still hold. Don't assume your enemies are the same. Adapt or you'll die again. Silence follows his words. Then Valeth speaks, his voice as smooth as ever. Understood, Your Majesty. We will move with caution. The other assassins nod, their expressions unreadable beneath their hoods. None of them question him, but Alex can tell they're piecing things together in their minds, already calculating their next steps. He exhales lightly, his gaze shifting to Valeth. The other shadow members will fill you in on what's going on. There's a lot to cover, and I don't have time to explain everything myself. Valeth inclines his head. Understood. I'll gather information from them. Alex glances at the group. Get up. Valeth studies them briefly before turning back to Alex. Your Majesty, is there anything else you wish to command before we begin our work? Alex shakes his head. For now, focus on re-establishing yourselves. Build the network from the ground up, and don't attract too much attention yet. His eyes narrow slightly. We still don't know the full extent of the threats out there. Valeth places a fist over his chest and bows slightly. As you wish. Without another word, the shadows vanish, melting into the darkness as if they were never there. Alex watches the last traces of shadow dissipate before glancing at his transparent screen. His eyes land on his remaining gold count. Gold. 2,357. A long sigh escapes him. I'm back to being poor again, he mutters. With that, he strides out of the resurrection chamber, the doors sealing shut behind him. His footsteps echo lightly against the polished floors as he walks through the dimly lit corridors of his palace. By the time he reaches the grand hallway, the sky outside has deepened into hues of violet and indigo. The first stars begin to flicker to life, but Alex's attention is drawn elsewhere. High above the land, 5 massive floating islands now hover in plain sight. His golden eyes narrow slightly. They're fully visible now, he murmurs. Is that the territory of the 5 Marshal, Your Majesty? Alex doesn't even flinch at the voice beside him. He already knows who it is. Turning slightly, he finds Drea standing next to him, gazing up at the sky with her usual calm expression. He has no idea when she arrived, but at this point, he's used to her appearing out of nowhere. Hearing her words, a chuckle escapes him. Now you're calling them Marshal? Drea pouts slightly, crossing her arms. It's because Your Majesty keeps calling them lords that I almost forgot their official title. Alex smirks. Ha. Fair enough. He looks back at the floating islands. Since no one is maintaining their territories, they've started coming out. Drea tilts her head. I see. So they don't normally appear like this. Alex shakes his head.
No.
The territories of the 5 Marshal are special. They exist in a different realm, one they can control it like a warship. But right now, they're empty. So they're starting to slip out of that reel. Drea's eyes widen slightly. Then, if left alone, could they fall? Alex hums in thought. Not quite. They're anchored by powerful magic. Alex folds his arms as he studies the massive floating fortresses. Just like the smaller floating islands that hover above the city, these don't really have any reason to float. They just do. Back in the game, it was just how things worked, no explanation needed. And now, even in this world, the same logic applies. They are quite a view to look at, Your Majesty, Drea says, her gaze lingering on the illuminated structures above. Alex nods. You're right. The sight of the floating fortresses doesn't bother him. He knows only the Five Marshal can truly control them, and with those seats currently empty, the islands have simply drifted into the open. It doesn't change anything for him. Compared to the vastness of his capital city, they're just another part of the skyline. In a way, they even add to the city's grandeur. The next day, Soren takes the lead, marching at the front of the convoy as they travel toward the capital. The soldiers under her command move in disciplined formation, but the real energy comes from the three at her side, Nosara, Thurn, and Veltha. The three have been non-stop in their excitement, their voices carrying over the ranks as they eagerly recount their first impressions of the capital. It's enormous, Nosara exclaims, gesturing dramatically. You could walk from sunrise to sunset and still not see everything. And the districts, Thurn adds. Each one is practically a city of its own. Just crossing from one to another takes hours. Veltha, not one to be left out, grins. And the floating islands. Massive things just hovering over the city. The most powerful subordinates of His Majesty live there. Chapter 71. Arrival. Their enthusiasm is contagious. The soldiers, despite their discipline, can't help but murmur among themselves. Some exchange glances, others listen in awe. Even Soren, who usually keeps her thoughts to herself, finds herself intrigued. The way these three describe it makes it seem almost mythical. Then comes the part that confuses everyone. But you know what's strange? Nosara says, lowering her voice slightly, as if sharing a secret. The city's empty. The soldiers blink, startled. Even Soren frowns. Empty? Thurn nods. Apart from us and our subordinates and some soldiers, there's no one else. Veltha crosses his arms. We don't know why, but it was eerie. A city that grand, that huge, should be overflowing with people. And yet it was quiet. Too quiet. A hush falls over the marching soldiers. The ones who had been excited before now exchange uncertain glances. Some had imagined bustling streets, towering spires filled with people. The idea of an empty, silent capital feels unnatural. After hours of travel, the towering walls of the capital finally come into view. The reaction is immediate. The sheer size of the walls alone, stretching high into the sky like mountains of stone, leaves the soldiers in stunned silence. Even the most disciplined among them can't help but crane their necks, their jaws slack in disbelief. This isn't a wall. One of the soldiers murmurs under his breath. This is a damn mountain. Nosara, Thurn, and Veltha, who had been hyping up the city the entire way, now watch with smug satisfaction as the others finally see it for themselves. Told you, Nosara says, grinning. It's ridiculous, Thurn mutters. How do you even build something this massive? Veltha chuckles. No idea, but this is just the start. Wait till you see the inside. Soren, walking ahead, keeps her expression composed, but even she has to admit, seeing it up close is something else. Then, as they approach the entrance, another realization dawns on the soldiers. The guards standing at the gate, unassuming compared to the monstrous walls behind them, are all Tier 2. A ripple of shock spreads through the group. Wait, Tier 2? One of the monster soldiers mutters in disbelief. Just for guarding a gate? In this forest, someone that strong could carve out their own territory. Another whispers. The soldiers exchange glances, suddenly feeling much smaller than before. Then the small gate begins to open. A deep, resonating hum fills the air as ancient mechanisms pull the heavy doors aside, revealing the path into the capital. The moment the gates fully part, the soldiers step forward, eyes widening as they take in the city beyond. Even after all the stories, all the hype, none of them were prepared for what they saw. And for a long moment, the entire group stands frozen in place, utterly speechless and amazed. Although they had tried to prepare themselves, seeing it with their own eyes was something else entirely. The floating islands. Some were small, no bigger than a noble's estate, with luxurious houses perched on top. Others were massive, hovering like great stone fortresses in the sky. The sight was so surreal that the soldiers barely remembered to keep moving. One of them pointed, voice cracking with disbelief. "Look at those 5 floating islands next to the palace. They're huge." Nasara's eyes went wide. "What? It's my first time seeing that." Thurn, who had been bragging about the capital the entire way, suddenly felt like a fool. "Me too." He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Wow, that's what you call a real floating island." Veltha nodded, still staring upward. Compared to those, the smaller ones just look like fancy floating rocks. A few of the soldiers swallowed hard. Seeing a single floating island would have been enough to make them question reality. But 5, clustered near the palace like sentinels of the sky, that was something else entirely. One of the younger soldiers hesitated before whispering, "Are those natural?" Soren smirked.
No.
"His Majesty controls this city. Nothing here is natural." The soldier shivered slightly, unsure if he should feel more in awe or afraid. Groth, however, eyes was shining looking at it. "I don't know how it works, but it's incredible." Nasara said, "Can you imagine living up there?" Thurn whistled low. "Not just anyone gets to, though. Only the strongest." That thought sobered the soldiers a little. They had come here full of excitement, ready to see the heart of their new kingdom. But now, standing beneath walls that touched the sky and floating islands that defied logic. Then, a deep, rumbling voice cuts through the awe-filled silence. "So, what do you think of the capital city?" The air seems to grow heavier as everyone turns. Varkas, the massive lycanthrope, stands before them. His sheer presence enough to make even the most battle-hardened soldiers instinctively stiffen. His towering frame, covered in thick fur, seems even more imposing against the grand backdrop of the capital. His eyes gleam with quiet amusement as he watches their stunned expressions. Without hesitation, the soldiers snap to attention, placing their fists over their chests in salute. "General Varkas!" Their voices boom in unison. Soren steps forward and salute, her tone firm but tinged with lingering amazement. "General, words can't describe how incredible this city is. It's perfect for His Majesty." Varkas lets out a deep, hearty laugh, the sound reverberating through the air like rolling thunder. "Good," he says, his sharp fangs flashing briefly as he grins. "That's exactly how it should be." His gaze sweeps over the soldiers, his expression shifting to something more authoritative. "Now, don't just stand there gawking. His Majesty is waiting." The soldiers tense, instinctively straightening their postures. "Move," Varkas orders. "Lead your forces to the palace and receive your rewards." Excitement surges through the ranks at those words. The fatigue of the long march fades instantly, replaced by renewed energy. Soren gives a sharp nod. "Yes, General." With that, she turns on her heel, leading the soldiers forward. The murmurs of awe continue as they march deeper into the capital, their eyes drinking in every impossible sight around them. Chapter 72. Special Skill. After a series of amazements, they finally arrive at the Grand Palace. Its sheer size alone is overwhelming, its towering spires reaching into the sky, polished stone reflecting the golden glow of the enchanted lights lining its walls. The soldiers march in silence, their heads tilting back as they take in the scale of the palace. But what truly makes them stop in their tracks is the sight of the being guarding the entrance. A monster clad in golden armor. The figure stands motionless, exuding an aura of sheer dominance. The polished plates of its armor gleam under the soft glow of the palace's light, reflecting distorted images of the soldiers staring at it. Though its face is hidden behind an ornate helm, its presence alone is suffocating. One of the soldiers gulps. That's not just any guard. A deep, resounding hum echoes as the enchanted gates part effortlessly, revealing the throne chamber within. The moment they step inside, even the most disciplined soldiers fail to suppress their gasps. The throne room is colossal, It's so large that the thousands of soldiers present could fit inside without issue. Yet the space remains open, grand, and imposing. Towering pillars carved with intricate symbols line the hall, stretching toward a ceiling that seems endlessly high. Massive chandeliers of floating crystal illuminate the chamber in a soft, ethereal glow. The polished marble floor reflects their figures as they move forward, every step sending faint echoes through the vast space. And then their eyes finally land on the throne. Seated atop a raised platform of dark stone, a figure sits upon a throne of black and gold. Alex. The soldiers freeze in place. The weight of his presence alone is enough to send a shiver down their spines. Draped in regal attire, his posture is relaxed yet commanding, one hand resting on the armrest of his throne. The golden accents of his dark clothing glint under the chandelier's glow, and his piercing gaze watches them in silence. For a long moment no one moves, no one speaks. Then, in perfect unison, the soldiers drop to one knee, fists over their chests. A single, thunderous voice erupts from the thousands present. Glory to His Majesty! Alex watches them kneel before him, thousands of soldiers unified in a single salute. His voice is calm yet commanding as he speaks. Rise! The soldiers obey immediately, standing tall as they wait for his next words. As I promised, you will be rewarded. Excitement ripples through the ranks, though they remain disciplined, standing at full attention. Alex's gaze shifts. Soren, come forward. She stiffens for a moment before stepping forward confidently. Yet, as she approaches the throne and looks up at him, something unexpected happens. For a brief second, she sees him not just as a king but as something more. The way he sits upon the throne, his aura exuding absolute authority, the sharp intensity in his eyes. It sends an unfamiliar thrill through her chest. Her heart beats faster. She crushes the feeling instantly, suppressing it deep within her. Now is not the time for such distractions. Stopping a few paces before him, she kneels once more. Your Majesty! Alex regards her for a moment before speaking. I will officially bestow upon you the title of Commander, he declares. From this moment on, these soldiers will be under your command. Soren quickly lowers her head. I am honored, Your Majesty. I will not disappoint you. I expect nothing less, Alex replies. He then addresses the entire army. Apart from your promotions, each of you will receive a Tier 1 skill or spell of your choosing. This time, the murmurs turn into barely restrained excitement. Soldiers exchange glances, fists tightening with anticipation. Skills were not easily obtained, and receiving one directly from their king was an honor beyond measure. But Alex isn't finished. His next words silence the entire chamber. However, there is one more reward I will grant you. He lifts his hand, and a soft glow of energy swirls at his fingertips. This skill is special. It will allow you to fight as one, your minds and movements linked in battle. With it, you will be able to challenge foes far beyond your current strength. Soren's breath catches slightly. A skill that unites an entire army? That isn't just powerful, it's terrifying. The soldiers, initially unsure of what he meant, slowly come to the same realization. Their expressions shift from excitement to pure awe. Alex's voice carries a final weight as he looks over them. With this power, you will no longer be just soldiers. His eyes gleam. You will be an unbreakable force. Silence reigns. Then, a single voice erupts from the crowd, raw with fervor. Glory to His Majesty! The cry spreads like wildfire, the soldiers' voices rising in a deafening roar. Glory to His Majesty! Their king has given them power, and they will follow him to the ends of the world. The return to Dalan City is not without tension. Soren, now officially a commander, leads the soldiers through the familiar streets alongside Thurn, Nasara, Veltha, and Gorth. The once deserted city is slowly coming back to life, yet the air remains thick with unease. The humans who had remained in Dalan after its fall keep their distance, watching the armed monsters with wary eyes. Though there have been no reports of violence, the deeply ingrained fear lingers. Monsters and humans cannot coexist. That is what they have always believed. But the reality before them challenges that belief. Word has spread beyond Delon's walls. Whispers travel among the merchant caravans. Dangerous rumors, impossible ones. The city is open to trade. Humans are safe under the rule of the monsters. The monsters, they're selling high-grade weapons. It is this last rumor that finally draws the boldest merchants into the city. Among them is Roderick, a seasoned trader with a keen nose for opportunity. He stands at the edge of the bustling marketplace, watching, disbelieving. The sight before him defies logic. Chapter 73, Sovereign's Call to Arms. Monsters, true monsters, some towering over the stalls, others with claws and fangs, are selling wares to human customers. A merchant stall, manned by a heavily built orc, displays swords and armor unlike anything Roderick has ever seen. The metal gleams unnaturally under the daylight, the craftsmanship beyond what any human blacksmith could achieve. Another stand, run by a beastman, offers vials of shimmering liquid. Potions? A pair of goblins haggle with a human trader over a crate of enchanted bolts, their sharp voices rising in argument before they finally settle on a price. Roderick exhales sharply. This is real. Oi, you buying or just staring? He turns to see a massive, four-armed troll behind the counter, its lower set of hands idly polishing a gleaming battle-axe while the upper two gesture at the displayed goods. Roderick swallows hard before stepping closer. That blade. He nods to a black and white long sword. How much? The troll grins, revealing sharp teeth. 20,000 gold coins. Roderick's face twitches. 20,000 gold? For this? From what he can see, the craftsmanship is excellent, but he has been in this business long enough to know that looks aren't everything. Judging by the balance and the faint energy it gives off, it's likely just a Tier 1 weapon. He can't be completely certain without using his appraisal skill, but his instincts rarely fail him. Still, 20,000 gold is daylight robbery. Roderick inhales slowly, keeping his expression neutral. Can I appraise it? The troll shrugs, crossing its lower arms while continuing to polish the battle-axe with the upper pair. Go ahead. With a nod, Roderick activates his appraisal skill. A soft glow envelopes the sword, shifting into a steady green hue. His suspicion is confirmed. Tier 1. He nearly scoffs out loud. That price is an insult. No human merchant would ever get away with charging this much for a mere Tier 1 weapon. But then again, this isn't a human seller. He glances at the troll. Massive, muscles like boulders, eyes glowing faintly with an inhuman light. Right? Haggling with this thing could be a fatal mistake. Suppressing a sigh, Roderick forces a polite smile. Impressive craftsmanship. The troll grunts. Of course it is. Roderick places the sword back on the counter, shaking his head. Unfortunately, it's out of my budget for now. The troll smirks, baring sharp teeth. Are you sure? It gestures toward a thick wooden log positioned beside the stall. What about you swing that sword at this log? Might give you a surprise. Roderick hesitates. As a merchant, he isn't exactly brimming with physical strength. Cutting through that log is impossible for someone like him, even if the sword is the sharpest Tier 1 blade in existence. But his curiosity gets the better of him. He picks up the sword again. Feels normal. The balance is fine, the weight is as expected, nothing special. With a deep breath, he swings downward. He already expects the blade to bounce off, maybe leave a shallow cut at most. But instead, SHHK, the sword nearly cleaves the log in half. Roderick stares, stunned. His arms tingle, his fingers tightening around the hilt as his mind races. That's not possible. What? How is that possible? He takes a step back, his heart pounding. Even if this sword were the sharpest Tier 1 weapon, with my strength, it should be impossible to cut through like that. The troll grins, arms crossing over its massive chest. Human, you want to know how it happened? Roderick swallows, still gripping the sword. Please, do tell me. The troll chuckles. Because that sword grants its wielder a buff in strength. Can't you feel it? Roderick furrows his brows and instinctively swings the sword again. Whoosh! The air parts effortlessly, the motion smooth, almost weightless. He can feel it now. His movements are sharper, stronger, his body lighter, yet more powerful. A weapon that enhances strength? That changes everything. Roderick exhales sharply, setting his stance. I'll buy it. 20,000 gold. But before he can even pull out his pouch, the troll lifts a hand, shaking its head. Not for sale anymore. Roderick freezes. What? The troll's smirk widens, its tusks gleaming. If you want it, you'll have to bid for it. We're holding an auction, and all we need is one more participant. Roderick's eye twitches. This bastard played me. He clenches his jaw, exhaling through his nose. There's nothing he can do, no haggling, no arguing. If he walks away, someone else will claim the sword. With a slow nod, he mutters, "Fine. Lead the way." The troll grins, motioning for him to follow. It leads him toward a large tent near the back of the marketplace. As Roderick steps inside, he immediately spots two other human merchants already seated at a rough wooden table. They don't even look at each other. Their expressions are grim, as if they're painfully aware of the fact that they've been played by a monster. But neither of them is leaving, because just like him, they want that sword. The bidding war begins. Alex sits in his workspace, his gaze fixed on the transparent floating screen before him. His status display shows the current citizen count, 126,437, still far from the 500,000 required to unlock level 500. He exhales through his nose, fingers tapping lightly against the armrest of his chair. Progress is steady, but not fast enough. Suddenly, the shadows in the room ripple. Kieran materializes from the darkness, kneeling instantly. His deep voice carries a sharp edge of satisfaction. "Your Majesty, the rumors you ordered us to spread in the neighboring human cities, they were successful. A large number of merchants have already begun flocking to Dalan City." Alex's lips curve slightly. "Good. With the items the monsters obtained from my dungeon, those human merchants are in for a shock." He leans back, a glint of amusement in his eyes. Gold coins will start flowing soon. He turns his attention to Kieran. "What about the Ralphian Kingdom's reaction to Dalan City?" Kieran remains kneeling, his expression unreadable. From the reports of the shadows stationed in Eldoria, the army hasn't mobilized to reclaim the city. Instead, the king has issued a sovereign's call to arms in the Adventurers Guild. Alex raises a brow. "A sovereign's call?" Kieran nods. "It's a special request where a ruling monarch petitions adventurers to reclaim a city overrun by monsters. Unlike a formal military campaign, this draws in mercenaries, independent warriors, and high-ranking adventurers who see it as both a challenge and an opportunity for wealth and prestige." Alex hums in thought, fingers drumming against the armrest. So instead of sending his army, he's relying on adventurers. A wise choice for a desperate man. Kieran nods. Indeed, it minimizes losses on his side while ensuring that strong individuals answer the call. Alex smirks. "That depends. Adventurers are unpredictable, but without proper coordination, they'll just be a chaotic force fighting for personal gain. I doubt they can reclaim Dalan City with just mercenaries." He leans forward slightly. "Keep monitoring the situation in all three kingdoms. If any major threats appear, I want to know immediately." Kieran bows his head. "Understood, Your Majesty." As Kieran vanishes into the shadows, Alex shifts his focus to the system interface. With a thought, he connects to Varkas. Deep within a private training hall, Varkas looking at Nikon swings his sword. But the moment Alex's voice echoes in his mind, he stopped Nikon. "Varkas." Alex's voice is calm yet commanding. "Go to Dalan City. You don't need to interfere unless a level 500+ human appears." Varkas immediately straightens, his golden eyes flashing with understanding. "As you wish, Your Majesty." With that, he sheathes his sword and turns to Nikon. "Training is over for today. Nikon nods. Yes, father. Stepping back as Varkas take out a flying carriage. Days pass, and Dalan City transforms into a battlefield in waiting. The adventurers, 20,000 strong, gather outside the city, their excitement palpable. The rewards offered by the Ralphian kingdom are absurdly generous. Many of these adventurers would normally never risk attacking an entire monster-held city, but a sovereign's call to arms is rare. Some even consider it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In Dalan City, Soren stands atop the walls, her gaze locked on the adventurers assembling beyond the gates. She has seen armies before, disciplined, trained soldiers who fight as one. But this is chaos waiting to happen. While 20,000 adventurers is a staggering force, they are nothing like a real army. Some are elite warriors, seasoned veterans with battle-worn armor and eyes that have seen death. Others are reckless youths, drawn by the promise of wealth and glory. They wear mismatched gear, shifting impatiently, eager for the battle to begin. Soren exhales, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Behind her, the 10,000-strong monster army waits in disciplined silence. But they are not the same as before. Their auras have changed. Soren can feel it, the subtle but undeniable presence of something more. It is the special skill granted by His Majesty, a power that binds them together, sharpening their instincts, making them move as a single entity. The days of scattered, instinct-driven combat are over. Now they are a true army. She turns to Thurn and Veltha, Nasara, and Groth, who stand beside him. They'll attack soon, Soren says, her voice steady. They believe numbers and greed will win this for them. Veltha, her crimson scales gleaming under the morning sun, lets out a soft chuckle. They don't know what they're walking into, Thurn said. Let them come. His Majesty has given us all we need. Chapter 74. The battle begin. In a large tent near the center of the adventurer camp, 5 silver rank adventurers gather around a wooden table. The air is thick with the scent of alcohol, sweat, and the distant crackle of campfires. The mood is a mixture of anticipation and greed. At the head of the table sits Grath, a Tier 4 warrior at level 412. His muscular frame is draped in worn but well-maintained armor, and a confident smirk lingers on his lips. He leans back in his chair, stretching his arms with the ease of someone who believes he's already won. All right, that's it for the meeting, Grath announces, exuding the cocky air of a man who expects everyone to follow his lead. His gaze flicks toward the walls of Dalan City, and his smirk widens. That delicious monster woman, I'll be the one taking her. He licks his lips as if already savoring his prize. Across the table, Derek, a Tier 3 warrior at level 326, lets out a chuckle. He has the look of a battle-hardened mercenary, his armor dented from past skirmishes. He leans forward, resting an elbow on the table. Ha! If you had a tail, it'd be wagging like a dog in heat, he teases. Laughter ripples through the group. Merrick, a spear-wielding Tier 3 at level 319, shakes his head, amusement dancing in his sharp eyes. Sir, how about you don't kill that monster? With your strength, subduing her should be easy. Just don't break her too much. Grath's smirk deepens as he shifts his attention to Merrick. What's your name again? Merrick, sir. The younger warrior responds without hesitation. I like you, Merrick, Grath says, his voice carrying a hint of approval. He points at him with a finger, still grinning. After this battle, you're joining my adventurer group. I could use men like you. Before Merrick can respond, Gavin Roke, a broadsword-wielding Tier 3 at level 321, lets out a low whistle. Damn, Merrick, moving up in the world already, huh? Joran Fess, the last of the group and a Tier 3 warrior at level 328, smirks as he runs a whetstone along his dagger. Better hope you survive first, he mutters. Grath leans forward, resting his elbows on the table. Survival's a given. Those monsters have no idea what's coming. Outside the tent, the distant sound of sharpening weapons and clinking armor fills the air. The battle for Dalan City is about to begin. The ground trembles under the march of 20,000 adventurers. Their armor clinks, weapons gleam under the daylight, and the air hums with tense anticipation. At the front, Grath rides confidently on his horse, his heavy armor polished enough to reflect the sunlight. His gaze sweeps across Dalan City's fortified walls, where the monster army stands in disciplined silence. With an arrogant grin, he pulls on the reins, bringing his horse to a halt. His voice booms across the battlefield. "Monsters! Why did you crawl out of your damn forest?" He sneers. "And you had the nerve to attack a human city?" Silence lingers for a moment, but then Grath's gaze locks onto a particular figure standing at the front of the monster forces. Soren. Grath's smirk deepens. "Listen up. If you all withdraw now and hand over your leader as my slave." He gestures towards Soren with a lazy wave. "I'll be generous. You won't all have to die today." The adventurers behind him chuckle, murmuring amongst themselves. Some are already picturing the spoils of war. But on the walls, Soren's expression twists in disgust. Her eyes burn with cold fury, and her fingers tighten around the hilt of his dagger. A low growl rumbles in her throat as she mutters under her breath, "I hate humans." Then, louder, her voice carrying across the battlefield, Soren glares down at Grath. "Human." She spits the word like venom. "Do you really think numbers alone will win you this battle? You're nothing but a bunch of weaklings clinging together, hoping that will make you strong." Grath chuckles, utterly unfazed. "Ha! Is that so? Then why are you hiding behind those walls?" He spreads his arms wide. "If you're so strong, come down and face us." The tension in the air thickens. Behind Soren, Veltha lets out a quiet chuckle, while Thurn, just looking amused, Nasara look at the humans fiercely. As for Grath, he is looking at the human mage. The monster army stands unmoving, eyes locked on their enemies. He draws his sword, pointing it toward Dalan City's gates. "Attack!" The adventurer army roars as they charge forward. From atop the walls, Soren exhales slowly. His voice is calm, yet carries a deadly promise. "Archers, ready?" The battlefield erupts. "Loose!" Soren's voice rings sharp across the walls. The sky darkens as thousands of arrows streak downward, slicing through the air like a deathly rain. The first wave of adventurers barely has time to react. Some raise shields, others dive for cover, but the sheer number of arrows makes evasion nearly impossible. Screams erupt as bodies crumple to the ground, arrows piercing armor and flesh alike. Blood splatters across the dirt as the charge falters, adventurers stumbling over their fallen comrades. But those at the back press forward, pushing through the chaos, their battle cries rising above the dying. Nasara watches, her claws twitching in anticipation. She wants to leap from the walls, to tear through the adventurers like they're nothing. But she knows better. Even with her newly evolved Arachne body, covered in metal like chitin, she isn't invincible. If she jumps in now, the sheer number of enemies will overwhelm her instantly. She grits her teeth. Patience. Thurn, standing beside her, doesn't hesitate. Raising one of his hands, he channels his Arachne tribe's natural poison ability. His sharp fingers glow a sickly green, and with a flick of his wrist, dozens of small, needle-like projectiles shoot toward the adventurers below. Poison rain. The tiny spikes pierce exposed skin, necks, faces, arms slipping through armor gaps. At first, the adventurers don't even notice. Then the poison takes hold. Chapter 75, Soren vs. Grath. Men and women clutch their throats, their veins turning black as agony spreads through their bodies. Some collapse, convulsing violently, while others stagger forward before their legs fail them. "Shit! I can't!" One man drops his sword, falling to his knees as foam bubbles from his mouth. Grath stands further down the wall, his hands glowing with flames. Unlike the others, his attack isn't meant to kill. Not yet. He raises both hands and begins hurling fireballs into the approaching army, but only Tier 1 spells. Small, weak, almost laughable. Yet that's the point. Ah, this monster is weak as hell. A warrior laughs, batting away one of the fireballs with his shield. This ain't even HH. The moment his guard drops, an arrow finds its mark in his exposed neck. Blood gushes from the wound as he collapses, gurgling. Groth smirks. Idiot. The low-tier spells are nothing but a distraction. Annoying, harmless on their own, but they force adventurers to react, to move erratically, to leave openings for real attacks. Veltha, watching the battlefield unfold, grins. Not bad. Down below, the adventurers push forward, their rage drowning out their caution. The initial surprise of the ambush is wearing off, and now they're adapting. Grath, still on horseback, swings his massive greatsword downward, cutting a flaming arrow in half before it reaches him. His face twists in a snarl. Enough of this bullshit. Push forward. Get to the damn walls. With his command, the adventurers rally, breaking into a full sprint toward the gates and scaling ladders. Soren watches them come, her eyes glinting. She draws her blade. Now, he mutters, the real battle begins. The clang of steel, the roar of spells, and the screams of the dying fill the battlefield. The adventurers push forward, scaling the walls, smashing against the defenses like an unrelenting tide. Among them, the 5 silver-ranked adventurers carve their way through the chaos, each one locking onto their target. Derek, the battle-hardened warrior, charges toward Nasara, his massive war axe gleaming in the light. His grin is wild, eager. Come on, spider bitch. Let's see how tough that exoskeleton really is. Merrick, his spear spinning effortlessly in his hands, moves toward Thurn, eyes sharp, stance light. Poison, huh? Annoying. But let's see if you can keep up. Gavin, his broadsword resting on his shoulder, eyes Groth with a smirk. Against a mage? This'll be fun. Joran, dagger in hand, disappears into the shadows, circling Veltha like a predator. Let's see how well a monster can see in the dark. And then there's Grath. His boots crush the dirt as he steps forward, eyes locked onto Soren. He takes his time, his gaze sweeping up and down her body, her lean, powerful frame, the inhuman sharpness of her features, the way she grips her sword with effortless confidence. He grins, licking his lips. Damn. You're even better up close. Soren's expression tightens, her grip on her weapon twitching. I'm going to carve that tongue out of your skull. Grath laughs. Feisty. I like that. He rolls his shoulders, cracking his neck. Come on, then. Show me what you got, monster. With a burst of speed, Soren launches forward, her dual dagger blur as it arcs toward his throat. Grath barely manages to twist out of the way, her strike carving a deep gash into the air where his neck had been. He steps back, his greatsword swinging in a powerful counterattack. Soren doesn't meet his attack head-on. She vanishes. A flicker, a blur of motion, and she's gone from his sight. Grath's instincts scream at him, and he twists just in time to catch the glint of steel aiming for his ribs. He slams his armored gauntlet down, knocking her blade aside, but the force of her strike sends a numbing shock through his arm. Fast! He mutters, eyes narrowing. Soren doesn't give him a second to recover. She shifts her stance, feet barely touching the ground as she twists, spinning like a shadow. The second dagger flashes toward his exposed side. Grath lets out a sharp breath. Reinforce! A faint blue aura flickers around his armor. A Tier 2 defensive skill. Soren's blade slams into it, deflecting just enough for him to pivot away. She clicks her tongue, annoyed. I'm going to enjoy this, Grath says, his smirk returning. He swings his greatsword in a powerful horizontal arc. Soren ducks low, sliding beneath the massive blade with effortless grace. Before he can react, her knee drives up into his gut. A solid hit. Even through his armor, Grath feels it, air forcibly leaving his lungs. But he's no rookie. He grits his teeth, grounding himself before she can capitalize on the moment. His gauntlet snaps out, aiming for her skull. Soren sees it coming. She twists midair, her body flipping backward in a tight motion, barely avoiding the crushing strike. She lands lightly, sliding back a few steps before raising her daggers again, her eyes sharp and calculating. Grath exhales, rolling his shoulders. A slow grin creeps onto his face. "I guess I underestimated you," he admits, flexing his fingers. His aura flares, and the ground beneath him cracks. Greater enhanced strength. A deep, golden glow erupts around his body, the Tier 3 buff skill reinforcing his muscles, making him stronger, tougher, and more relentless. His already massive frame seems to swell with power, veins pulsing with raw strength. But he doesn't stop there. Razor Reflex. Quickened Perception. 2 Tier 2 skills activate in succession, his eyes sharpening, his movements becoming eerily fluid. Soren's pupils narrow. He's faster now. Not as fast as her, but no longer slow enough to toy with. She exhales. "Fine. Let's not waste time." Her own aura surges. Phantom Step. A Tier 3 speed buff. Her body lightens, her movements becoming so swift they blur at the edges, as if reality itself struggles to contain her. Then she stacks on more. Shadow Agility. Wind Walker. Flowing Blade. 3 Tier 2 buffs. Speed, mobility, fluid motion, all enhancing her already inhuman agility. Grath's eyes glint. Now we're talking. And then, they clash. Chapter 76. Finger of the Death God skill. Derek charges forward, his war axe whistling through the air as he swings at Nasara's chest. Crash. The force of his strike shatters the ground beneath them. But when the dust clears, Nasara stands, completely unscathed. Her evolved Arachne body, strengthened by consuming ores daily, allows her exoskeleton to rival enchanted steel. Derek's eyes widen in shock. "The hell?" he growls. "That should have crushed your ribs." Nasara flexes her claws, her fingers tipped with razor-sharp talons. "You humans always underestimate what you don't understand." With a blinding burst of speed, she lunges, her clawed hands slashing at Derek's exposed arms. Slash! Blood splatters across the ground as deep gashes appear on Derek's forearms. He grits his teeth, stumbling back, but Nasara isn't finished. She follows up with a kick, her powerful Arachne legs striking his chest like a battering ram. Derek flies backward, his boots skidding against the dirt as he barely regains balance. His grip tightens around his war axe. "All right then, monster," he growls. "Let's see how much that armor holds up." He activates a skill. Crushing Force. His axe glows, gaining weight and destructive power. He rushes forward, bringing it down in a brutal overhead strike. Nasara raises her arms, cross-blocking the attack with her reinforced exoskeleton. The ground beneath her shatters from the impact, but her body holds firm. "That won't work on me," she says, her voice eerily calm. Then her carapace shifts. From her back, 2 bladed legs unfold, gleaming with unnatural sharpness. Derek's eyes widen. "Ore forged blades." With an unnatural twist, Nasara's blade legs strike forward, forcing Derek to leap back to avoid being skewered. "Shit," he curses. "You got extra arms. That's cheating." Nasara doesn't respond. She just advances, the extra limbs moving with terrifying precision, her strikes relentless. Meanwhile, Thurn moves like a wind, slipping between Merrick's spear thrusts with ease. Merrick is fast, his spearwork precise, but Thurn is an Arachne poison master. He doesn't need to overpower his enemy. Just one scratch critical strike is enough. Merrick thrusts forward. Thurn sidesteps, his upper body swaying unnaturally, his extra spider legs anchoring him. His chitinous hands flex, revealing thin, needle-like claws. He feints left, then suddenly lashes out, grazing Merrick's forearm. Tiny cut, barely a scratch, but Merrick stumbles. His breathing grows ragged, his pupils dilate. "You!" Merrick pants, sweat dripping down his face. "What the hell did you?" Thurn tilts his head. "Your body is slowing, isn't it?" Merrick growls, forcing his body to move, but his reactions are now a fraction slower. His strikes become sloppier, his footwork uneven. Thurn's venom is taking hold. Merrick grits his teeth. Damn you, spider bastard. Thurn simply smiles before vanishing, his next attack already coming. Elsewhere, Veltha and Joran engage in a deadly dance of speed and deception. Joran, the rogue, moves like liquid, his dagger flickering in and out of sight. He's used to hunting monsters, used to striking unseen and disappearing before the counterattack. But Veltha is a serpent, predator. Her elongated body coils, her movements sinuous and unreadable. Her eyes glow in the seeing through Joran's tricks. He vanishes, flickering behind her. Veltha whirls, her tail snapping out like a whip. Crack! Joran barely dodges, feeling the gust of air as the massive tail nearly shatters his ribs. His eyes widen. That's not normal, he mutters. Veltha hisses. You can't hide from me. She lunges, her speed overwhelming. Joran tries to retreat, but her tail catches his ankle. He stumbles, and in that moment, Veltha's claws flash forward. Slash! Joran barely twists away, but not before Veltha's talons carve deep gashes across his chest. Blood drips. Joran exhales sharply, realizing he can't outmaneuver her. She sees everything. His smirk fades. This fight is going to be hell. On the other side of the battlefield, Groth faces Gavin, the broadsword-wielding warrior. Gavin grins. Fire magic, huh? Bad luck for you. I've fought plenty of mages. He charges forward, his broadsword already glowing with energy. Blazing ward. Groth slams his staff into the ground. A dome of white-hot fire erupts, forcing Gavin to skid to a stop. The flames twist unnaturally, forming a spiraling wall of heat. Gavin's eyes widen. The hell? Groth chuckles. Boy, you know nothing about fire. The flames collapse inward. Gavin barely raises his sword before the spiraling inferno lashes toward him. Boom! The explosion engulfs him. For a moment, all that remains is a sea of flames. Then, Gavin emerges, coughing, his armor scorched, his sword glowing red-hot. He glares at Groth. All right, that actually hurt. Groth smirks. Then let's see how much more you can take. He raises his staff again, the temperature rising. The battle rages on. The adventurers slam their ladders against the fortress walls, their hands grasping at the rungs as they climb toward the top. The defenders above rain down arrows, spears, and stones, trying to halt the assault. But the adventurers are tenacious, driven by greed, pride, and bloodlust. Some fall, pierced by arrows, their bodies tumbling back to the ground. Others push forward, screaming war cries, their weapons ready. A Tier 2 adventurer, his great sword strapped to his back, climbs furiously. His eyes lock onto the soldier above him. Die, monster! He roars, reaching the top. A massive, clawed hand grabs his face. The soldier, a massive beast of a man, lifts the adventurer off the ladder with one hand. His eyes burn with an eerie black aura, his body exuding something inhuman. You don't belong here, the soldier says, his voice a deep, unnatural growl. Then, crack. The soldier smashes the adventurer's head against the wall and hurls his corpse back down onto the climbers below. The adventurers pause. Something is wrong. The defenders, the monsters-turned-soldiers, should be untrained, disorganized, scared. But instead, they move as one. Their attacks are coordinated. Their formations solid. Their aura, it blends together. A single will, a single presence. One adventurer stares up, his voice shaking. What the hell is this? And suddenly, an invisible pressure descends. A mage below, a Tier 2 spellcaster, hurls fireballs at the main gate, bombarding it with spells. With splinters, cracks forming. Almost there, he shouts. Chapter 77, Victory. But the moment that pressure hits him, his spell fizzles. His heart pounds erratically. His breath catches in his throat. What? The soldiers don't even realize what they are doing. They are not strong enough to manifest the finger of the death god's skill yet. But their combined focus, their singular intent to kill, is enough to project its presence. They feel it. Something vast. Something watching. The adventurers on the ladders hesitate. The mage stumbles backward. The defenders grin. They lunge forward, cutting down the enemies, knocking ladders over, sending adventurers to their deaths. The mage, shaking, tries to cast again. But now, a soldier drops from the wall above. He lands behind him, sword already swinging. The mage barely registers the attack before his head is severed from his shoulders. His body drops. The battle rages on, but the tide is turning. The adventurers feel it. This is no ordinary army, and they are losing. The battle rages on for an hour. The clash of steel, the screams of the dying, and the thunder of spells fill the battlefield. The once confident adventurers are losing. Their morale is crumbling like the corpses piling around them. They were supposed to be the hunters. They were supposed to be the stronger ones. Yet now their bodies shake. Their hands tremble. They have never fought something like this. The soldiers, no, the monsters-turned warriors, move with unnatural unity. Their presence, their killing intent, their very existence on the battlefield exerts a crushing pressure. It's as if they are no longer individuals. They are one. And the adventurers are breaking. Derek gasps for breath, his arms aching, bleeding. His once pristine armor is now cracked and soaked in his own blood. Nasara is injured too. Cuts along her exoskeleton, black ichor dripping from wounds, but she stands firm. Her 8 crimson eyes glow in the dim light. Derek grits his teeth. He refuses to die here. Not bad, monster. He mutters, wiping the blood from his lips. But I ain't going down yet. Nasara tilts her head, amused. You're already dead. You just don't realize it yet. She moves. Derek barely raises his axe before her blade legs pierce through his shoulder. Ack! He stumbles back, his body screaming in agony. But Nasara doesn't stop. She lunges, claws flashing. Derek swings wildly, desperate, but Nasara ducks beneath the strike, her leg sweeping out. Crack! Derek's knee snaps. He collapses, screaming. Nasara looms over him, her blade legs dripping with his blood. You're finished, she whispers. Derek's vision blurs. He looks up at the sky, his breath ragged. He lost. The battlefield is nearly silent now. The adventurers have fallen. Their strongest warriors. *** Derek, Merrick, Joran, Gavin, *** all dead. The defenders stand tall, wounded but victorious. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, the final duel rages. Soren and Grath stand amidst the bodies of the fallen. The battlefield around them is chaos. Fire, steel, and blood. But in this moment, nothing else exists. Only the two of them. Grath grips his greatsword tightly. Blood drips from a deep gash in his thigh, but his eyes burn with determination. He sneers at Soren, who stands before him, dagger in hand, her form barely swaying despite her wounds. Her blackened armor is torn, revealing deep lacerations across her arms and stomach. Blood stains the fabric, but her slitted eyes remain cold and focused. I wanted you to become my slaves, but I didn't think you would be this strong, Grath says, rolling his shoulders. But this ends now. Soren doesn't respond. She simply adjusts her stance, her dagger gleaming ominously under the battlefield's fading light. Grath exhales sharply and activates his strongest skill. Executioner's Judgment. A crimson aura explodes around him, his great sword radiating a deathly glow. The sheer force of the skill warps the air around him, sending a shockwave through the battlefield. The ground cracks beneath his feet. Soren tenses. Grath surges forward, his sword swinging in an arc meant to cleave her in two. She dodges barely. The blade cuts through empty space, but the sheer force tears into her side. Blood bursts from the wound. GH! Soren staggers, gritting her teeth. Grath doesn't give her a moment to recover. He pivots, slamming his armored fist into her stomach. Thud! The impact sends her flying, her body crashing against the corpse-ridden ground. Coughing, Soren pushes herself up, her dagger still clutched in her trembling hand. Her vision blurs for a moment, but she forces herself to focus. She won't die here. Stay down, monster. Grath growls, walking toward her, his great sword raised for the final strike. Soren's grip tightens around her dagger. Not yet. Grath swings, and in that split second Soren moves, faster than she ever has before. Her dagger hums, the runes along its edge glowing a deep crimson. Death Requiem, the dagger's Tier 4 skill. A shadowy mist erupts from the blade, wrapping around Grath like a reaper's embrace. What? Grath's eyes widen. His body locks in place for a mere instant. But that's all Soren needs. She twists, her dagger flashing forward. Seichenke. The blade plunges into Grath's throat. His breath catches. His great sword falls from his grip, clattering to the ground. His hands reach up, grasping at the dagger buried in his flesh, as if refusing to believe it. His legs wobble. His lips part, blood spilling out. You! He rasps, his voice a horrified whisper. How do you have two Tier 4 skills? Soren leans in close, her golden eyes staring into his fading ones. You humans always underestimate us. With a final push, she twists the dagger. Grath gurgles. Then, his body collapses, dead. Soren stands over him, breathing heavily, her dagger dripping with his blood. The final battle is over, and the monsters have won. For a moment, silence hangs over the battlefield. Then, Sir Grath is dead. The panic scream cuts through the chaos like a blade. An adventurer stumbles back, his face pale with terror, as he watches Grath's lifeless body collapse onto the blood-soaked ground. His voice cracks as he repeats, Sir Grath is dead. He's really dead. Chapter 78. Aftermath. The words ripple through the adventurers like a shockwave. Their leader, their strongest warrior, the one they believed to be invincible, has fallen. Impossible. One of them whispers, his sword trembling in his grip. We're finished. Another breathes, taking a shaky step back. If even Sir Grath lost, there's no way we can win this. The monsters, the so-called mindless beasts they came to slaughter, are standing tall, bloodied but victorious. The pressure weighing down on them is no illusion anymore. It's real. We have to run! An adventurer shouts, panic fully gripping him now. Fall back! Fall back! Like a dam breaking, chaos erupts. Some adventurers immediately turn and flee, their survival instincts overriding any sense of duty or greed. Others hesitate, looking at their fallen comrades, their broken formations, before the fear finally takes hold and they follow. Weapons are dropped, shields abandoned. The once mighty force of adventurers, so confident, so arrogant when they first arrived, now scatters in every direction like frightened animals. Don't leave me! One adventurer barely manages to take a few steps before a spear pierces his back. He gasps, blood spurting from his lips as he crumples to the ground. There is no mercy. The defending monsters, their bodies battered and bloodied, do not simply stand by and watch. They advance. With a bestial roar, Veltha coils and launches herself forward, her claws tearing into the nearest fleeing adventurer. Soren watches from where she stands over Grath's corpse, breathing heavily, her dagger still dripping with his blood. Her eyes flick to the battlefield, watching as the invaders break completely. They thought they were the hunters, but in the end, they were the prey. Soren exhales, her body screaming in protest as she forces herself to stand. Every wound throbs, her vision blurs for a moment, but she grits her teeth and steadies herself. The battlefield is a sea of corpses, and though the enemy is broken, the fight has taken its toll. Suddenly, a heavy presence appears beside her. You did a good job fighting a veteran Tier 4 opponent, Farkas says, his deep voice carrying over the battlefield. Soren turns her head slightly. The towering general stands next to her, with his crimson armor. In his hand, he holds a glass vial filled with a shimmering red liquid, a high-grade healing potion. She takes it without hesitation. "Thank you, General Varkas." Her voice is steady, despite the exhaustion threatening to pull her under. Varkas nods, then hands her 4 more potions. "Give these to the 4, he says, his gaze shifting to the top of the wall. His expression is unreadable, but his eyes narrow slightly. He exhales, shaking his head. "Too bad there was no Tier 5 enemy among them," he mutters. "This kingdom can't possibly be this weak." Soren pauses, watching him. Varkas crosses his arms, his gaze distant, thoughtful. "Back then," he continues, "our enemies always had Tier 5 warriors. Even Tier 5 were as common as cabbage." He scoffs. "But here, nothing." Varkas doesn't say the rest out loud. If he did, Soren would be shocked to her core. Tier 5 is already a legend to them. For most of the soldiers standing here, it is something that exists only in ancient records, heroes of the past, mythical figures who shaped history. Soren, wiping the blood from her dagger, looks over the battlefield. The corpses of fallen adventurers litter the ground, their lifeless eyes staring into nothing. The stench of blood and burnt flesh hangs thick in the air. She tightens her grip on her weapon before turning to the nearest soldier. "Burn all the dead humans," she orders, her voice cold and firm. "We can't leave their corpses rotting here." The soldier nods, immediately relaying the command. Soren exhales sharply, suppressing the ache in her body as she continues. "As for our fallen, bury them properly. They fought and died for us. They deserve that much." A heavy silence follows. Even in victory there is loss. At least 500 of their own are dead. The battlefield is filled with their bodies, warriors who had stood beside them just hours ago, now lifeless. But the human adventurers? Over 5,000 dead. Out of the 20,000 that attacked, only chaos and fleeing survivors remain. Varkas glances at Soren, then at the battlefield. "We won," he states, his voice carrying no pride, only fact. Soren nods, but she does not celebrate. Their side started with 11,000 soldiers. Now 500 are gone forever. Victory always comes at a cost. She watches as the soldiers begin their grim task, gathering their fallen comrades, preparing the human bodies for the pyres. The crackling of flames soon fills the air, mingling with the scent of burning flesh. The city gates of Eldoria groan as the first wave of battered, bloodied adventurers stumbles through. Their armor is cracked, weapons chipped, and their expressions hollow. The sight is enough to silence the busy streets. Merchants pause mid-sale, guards straighten in confusion, and commoners step back, murmuring among themselves. Then the whispers begin. "The adventurers, lost? By the gods, look at them. What happened? They were supposed to wipe out the monsters." Word spreads like wildfire, carrying through the streets, weaving through alleyways, and pouring into taverns. Within hours, all of Eldoria buzzes with the news. The Adventurers Guild suffered a crushing defeat. Inside a rowdy tavern, drunken voices rise and fall, filling the smoky air of a packed pub. A group of adventurers, still reeking of blood and dirt, sits slumped around a table, nursing their drinks like lifelines. One of them, a young rogue with a bandaged arm, slams his mug down. "I tell ya, those monsters ain't normal. They ain't just beasts anymore." A burly, half-drunk warrior scoffs. "Bah! You got beat by some oversized rats and lizards. They fought like an army. Like they knew what they were doing." He leans in, voice dropping. "And their commanders? They were Tier 3. One of them, a damn Tier 4 assassin monster, killed Sir Grath." Sir Grath. Chapter 79. Envoy from Valgro's Kingdom. At the name, the tavern grows quieter. An older adventurer, face weathered by years of battle, takes a slow sip of his drink. If they killed Grath, then this ain't just some monster uprising. This is war. A merchant sitting nearby frowns, adjusting his tunic. "Va? You think they're actually organizing?" Another adventurer, this one missing 2 fingers, snorts bitterly. They're already organized, idiot. And they're getting stronger. He gulps down his drink and mutters, maybe they're tired of the abuse we give 'em. A hush falls over the group. Outside, the city churns with its own rumors. Some whisper that the monsters have found a new leader, someone uniting them. But one thing is clear, fear is spreading. In the heart of the Ralphian kingdom, within the grand halls of the royal palace, voices clash in heated debate. The air is thick with tension, nobles standing in circles, their faces flushed with anger. A noble in gold-trimmed robes slams his fist against a marble table. This is an embarrassment. A bunch of beasts holding our cities? Killing our warriors? We should have crushed them by now. Another noble, an older man with graying hair, scoffs. Crushed them? The guild sent 20,000 adventurers, and 5,000 never returned. What do you suggest, Lord Edris? Send our knights to die next. Edris sneers. Better than letting those abominations think they own our lands. He turns to the throne, where King Edric sits, watching the chaos unfold. Your Majesty, we must act now. If we wait any longer, those monsters will become a true threat. Marshal Walrick, standing near the king, finally speaks. The guild underestimated them. They thought it was a simple extermination. It wasn't. He crosses his arms. We need to reevaluate the enemy before making rash moves. The room erupts into shouting again. Some demand immediate war, others urge caution. But through it all, King Edric remains silent. The tension in the grand hall is suffocating. Nobles shout over one another, their voices a mix of anger, fear, and desperation. The weight of the defeat sits heavy in the air, poisoning every discussion with frustration. Lord Edris, his face red with barely restrained fury, turns sharply toward a man standing calmly among the chaos. Duke Finn. Finn, the leader of the noble faction that constantly opposes him. Edris clenches his fists. What do you think, Duke Finn? He asks, his voice edged with impatience. The room quiets slightly as eyes shift to the composed Duke. Finn, dressed in elegant but understated noble attire, meets King Edric's gaze instead of Edris's. Your Majesty, let's not rush into anything. His tone is smooth, measured. What happened in Dalan City proves that we are dealing with something far beyond what we expected. Sending another army blindly will only end in another disaster. A murmur spreads through the room. Some nod in agreement, while others scowl. Finn continues, I suggest we gather more information first, truly understand what we are dealing with. We have resources, spies, and scouts for a reason. Acting recklessly now could cost us more than just soldiers. He pauses for a brief moment before adding, also, the envoy from Valgro's kingdom is set to arrive soon. They might be willing to assist us. After all, war is their expertise. Edris's jaw tightens, his patience wearing thin. This damn snake. Always preaching caution, always delaying things. If not for these nobles causing trouble in the kingdom for the past few days, the situation wouldn't have spiraled this far. But because there's no evidence against them, Edric's hands remain tied. Still, he refuses to let Finn dictate the pace. I want everyone here to send their most powerful scouts to investigate. Edric declares firmly, his sharp gaze sweeping across the gathered nobles. We will work together to gather intelligence efficiently. The words are casual. The meaning is not. Finn's forehead twitches slightly. This sly bastard. By framing it as a cooperative effort, Edric ensures that every noble must participate. Some nobles exchange glances, clearly displeased, but none dare voice opposition. They know refusing this request would only raise suspicion. Finn exhales quietly, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Of course, Your Majesty. That is a reasonable course of action. Edris smirks slightly, watching the silent frustrations ripple through Finn's faction. The next day, Eldoria City is draped in banners, and its streets are lined with soldiers in gleaming armor. A grand welcome is prepared for the envoy from Valgro's kingdom, but despite the show of hospitality, there is an unshakable tension in the air. Valgro's is stronger, wealthier, and far more experienced in war than Ralphion. Their presence alone is enough to make the nobles uneasy. When the envoy arrives at the royal palace, they are led directly to the throne room. The heavy doors swing open, revealing two imposing figures at the head of the delegation. The first is Prince Darius, the third prince of Valgros' kingdom. He is young but carries himself with the confidence of someone who has never known defeat. His long black hair is tied back neatly, and his sharp golden eyes scan the room with mild amusement. Beside him stands Marshal Draven, one of Valgros' most renowned warriors. His presence alone is suffocating. He is a Tier 5 powerhouse. His sheer aura he didn't restrain is enough to make some of the weaker knights instinctively tighten their grips on their weapons. His crimson and black armor gleams under the grand chandeliers, and the massive greatsword strapped to his back looks as if it could cleave a knight in half with a single swing. As they step forward, neither of them kneel. Instead, they only offer a slight bow, a clear sign of disrespect. A murmur spreads through the court. King Edric's expression remains calm, but his fingers tighten on the armrest of his throne. He expected this. Valgros has never seen Ralphion as an equal. Prince Darius smirks slightly, his voice smooth as silk. "Your Majesty," he greets, his golden eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "I appreciate the warm welcome." Chapter 80. King Rewalt of Valgros' Kingdom. Edric inclines his head, his voice measured. "Prince Darius, Marshal Draven, it is an honor to receive the esteemed representatives of Valgros." Marshal Draven says nothing, only giving Edric a slow, assessing glance before shifting his gaze to the gathered nobles. A noble clenches his jaw. Another averts his gaze. Duke Finn suddenly said, "Prince Darius, we sought your kingdom's aid." He replies smoothly. After all, Valgros has always been unmatched in the art of war. Darius turns to Duke Finn, his expression one of mock surprise. "Oh? Is that so?" He chuckles, shaking his head slightly. What happened here, exactly?" His eyes gleam with amusement, but beneath that, there's something sharper. A silent message to Finn. "Act natural." Edric exhales slowly, forcing himself to remain calm. His voice is steady, but there's an undeniable edge to it. "Prince Darius must be joking. With your kingdom's intelligence network, you already know what has happened." The nobles shift uneasily. They know it too. Valgros wouldn't have sent a prince and a Tier 5 marshal without knowing every single detail beforehand. Darius's smirk deepens. "Ah, your Majesty is truly wise," he says, voice smooth as silk. "Then let's not waste time with pleasantries. My father wishes to offer his assistance. After all, what we face now is a common enemy of all humankind." Edric doesn't react immediately, his gaze unreadable. But before he can speak, Edric scoffs. His voice is laced with distrust. "I don't believe for a second that King Rewalt offers help without expecting something in return." He leans forward, arms crossed. "So tell us, Prince Darius, what is it that you want?" Darius chuckles lightly, as if entertained by the accusation. "So direct," he muses. Then, with a casual shrug, he delivers his demand. "Very well. My father wants Mizorn City." The words send a ripple of shock through the court. Instantly, several nobles step forward, their voices overlapping in protest. "Your Majesty, you can't. Mizorn is too important. Even if Violent's corruption has ruined it, the city's resources coming from it to the kingdom remain untouched. The kingdom would suffer a great loss if we surrendered it." The throne room erupts into chaos. Some nobles look at Edric, waiting for his response, while others turn to Finn, anticipating his counter. But Finn remains silent, watching the exchange unfold with a calculating gaze. Edric lets the uproar continue for a few moments before raising a hand. The hall falls into tense silence. His eyes lock onto Darius, sharp and unreadable. "You ask for one of my cities," he says, voice even. "That is no small request, Prince Darius. You must know how much it would cost me." Darius meets Edric's gaze with an easy smile. I don't think it's an unfair request, Your Majesty, he says smoothly. From the intelligence we've gathered, there's a Tier 5 monster in Dalan City. The room falls into stunned silence. Several nobles exchange alarmed glances, while others whisper among themselves. A few look outright disbelieving. A Tier 5. One noble mutters, his voice shaking.
Impossible.
Edric himself feels a chill creep down his spine. His kingdom doesn't even have a single Tier 5 warrior. How did a forest that had never birthed even a Tier 4 suddenly produce something of that level? Darius, clearly enjoying the reaction, leans back slightly. Hard to believe, isn't it? His golden eyes gleam with amusement. But my father wouldn't have sent me here if we weren't certain. A heavy tension hangs in the air. Even the most vocal nobles hesitate, realizing the weight of what this means. Then Darius speaks again, his tone turning almost casual. Unless, of course, Your Majesty plans to use that item. The room collectively takes a sharp breath in. A single sentence, yet it shakes the entire court. Several nobles pale, while others instinctively avert their gazes. That item, the one relic that keeps Ralthian from being swallowed by its stronger neighbors. To them, it is nothing short of a god's artifact. Edric's expression darkens, his fingers tightening slightly against the armrest of his throne. His voice, when he speaks, is cold and absolute. Let's not talk about that. Darius chuckles, his smirk unfading. Of course, Your Majesty. Everyone in the room knows why Edric shuts the topic down so quickly. The reason the two powerful kingdoms bordering Ralthian haven't crushed it is because of that item. But it can only be used 3 times. And in the kingdom's long history, it has already been used twice. Edric exhales slowly, his fingers tapping against the armrest as the weight of the situation settles in. He hates it, but the truth is clear. Ralthian has no Tier 5 warriors. They can't defeat that monster alone. His jaw tightens before he finally speaks, his voice steady but heavy. I suppose we don't have a choice, then. Darius's smirk widens, his golden eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Such a wise decision, Your Majesty, he says smoothly. I knew His Majesty would understand the value of practicality. He gestures respectfully toward the silent figure standing beside him. Sir Marshal Draven will personally deal with the Tier 5 monster. Your Majesty and your forces only need to handle the small fries. The weight of Draven's presence alone is suffocating. A man who has seen countless battlefields, standing there like a war god in waiting. Edric's gaze shifts to the Marshal. And you're confident you can handle it? For the first time, Draven speaks. His voice is low and firm, carrying the quiet certainty of a man who has never known fear. It will die. A simple statement, a declaration. A chill runs through the nobles. Edric's expression remains unreadable. Mizorn is still part of my kingdom until this war is won. Darius inclines his head. Of course. The court remains tense, but for now the deal is made. Back in Alex, the atmosphere in his work chamber is stagnant. He leans back in his chair, staring at the high ceiling, exhaling deeply.